Hi, hello. So I'm going to say already immediately, thank you for clicking on this. Because, you know, downright, like 99.9% of people are just going to hit dislike or like comment some brain rot garbage, and I promise I'll delete those. You know, with, without actually like watching the video at all. But this is one of those circumstances that I actually think I can use this type of, like, conflict of interest as an example of, like, the shift of the internet, right? So, I don't know. I really want to actually, like, bring this to the table because, goodness, like, it's very interesting how complex this topic is. It's very interesting, like, how, like, just much people act within each other and how wild people act within each other to have this happen. So, I don't know, this is the first time I think I've ever actually, like, just went full-blown into, like, figuring out everything about a drama situation. And honestly, I'm glad, because this whole thing, this whole experience was very informative, and I really do want to see, like, where this goes, right? This does show me the behavior of people in general, because honestly, for the longest time, I did not understand content creators' behavior, but this is definitely one of them. So, you know, anyway, I'm gonna shut up now and we'll get started. All right, let's get through this Asmongold clip. It's probably fucking nothing. So I'm like, it's gonna be, usually with these things, they're a bucket of nothing. So we have a person
Let's just go.
Who is a big fan, very big fan of giving children puberty blockers. Trans people will never leave kids alone.
Whoa. What? Hold on. Whoa, hold on. Fucking what? Excuse me? Hold on. He better be fucking quoting somebody. What do you mean puberty blockers? What the fuck are you talking about? Okay, so I did look into it. The puberty blocker thing. It is real. I had no idea, but yeah, it's real. The TLDR version of it is it just halts, like, puberty until the person that, you know, is not sure yet what gender they are, chooses what gender they are in the future, you know, and therefore then either can choose to continue the process of, you know, what they were doing or what they now know they are the gender they were assigned at birth, and they continue just going through puberty normally, or what will happen is maybe, I'm assuming, probably pausing it until they transition to the opposite gender when, or the gender they identify with when they're 18, because, you know, you can't change your gender until you're 18, so that's just always been a thing, and you know, I agree with that, so. Okay, whoa, this is not what I expect. Okay, hold on. Whoa. Fucking whoa. Hold on. What the fuck is he sourcing here? Hold on. He's clearly reading something. Trans people will never leave kids oh god. Trans people will never leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately need when we were younger. Stop making it so difficult for us to be a part of society. Wait, hold on. This is a really weird take. Hold on. I'm looking at the tweet that he did, right? Like... Okay, what? Okay, hold on. Now I'm confused. What the fuck is going on here? Trans people will never leave kids alone. That's a really weird way of phrasing it, but okay. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately needed when we were younger. Yes. Exactly. Okay. Stop making it so difficult to be a part of society. I agree. Okay, wait, whoa. What is... Hold on. What the hold on. I need to make sure I heard that shit correctly. Hold on, wait. I clearly misheard, right? I clearly fucking misheard. One sec. Hold on. Wait. Forcing trans kids to go through a puberty that doesn't align with their gender identity and causes them to have depression, anxiety, and high risk of... Just because you believe that trans people shouldn't be allowed to exist is bad, actually. Okay, this is a really weird take. Hi, how you doing, LeBetty? This is a really fucking weird take. Hold on. Forcing trans kids to go through a puberty that doesn't align with their gender identity causes them to have depression, anxiety, and high risk of... Well, also, we can't really just... I don't really understand this, because it's like, we can't just... Again, there's a reason why it's also, you know, made sure that they have to be adults before they're able to make the transition, because you never know if somebody still identifies with that. Like, hormones are hormones by the end. It's good to make sure that, you know, teenagers don't, like, fuck each other, you know, like, in any way like that, but also, like, I don't know if really necessarily what they're, you know, letting minors transition is probably not the best circumstance either. Okay, I'm very confused. But, like... Okay. Yeah, that is weird. I admit, guys, I get infected with trans. Yeah. To be honest, okay. Like, I'm very confused, because it's like, okay... What Asmongold is saying and what the tweet is saying is, like, completely different. Like, I'm getting this two completely different things. Like, I get the idea. Minors shouldn't be, like, getting, you know... I get the idea. You shouldn't let somebody... Like, I understand that people identify a certain way, but again, like, adults are the ones that have to make the decision when they're older, right? Okay, I'm gonna add an editor's note here. I do not know anything about being trans. The only thing that I have the closest thing to is friends that are trans, and that is it. I am not trans myself, so I do not have anything that I can, like, put to the table on this. I would say, just if there is anything about that question for trans people, or like any of the stuff that I was talking about, ask a trans person themselves, because they know more about it than I do. So, you know, ask a transport person or a doctor. You know, doctors are also, like, great on that. So that's basically what I will put here. Hold on, wait. But what is he? Because there's also another thing below it. Admits children should take anabolic steroids if they were groomed through Munchausen proxy? I don't even know what Munchausen is. Hold on. Munchausen syndrome, now known as a factitious disorder imposed on self. It is a mental health condition where individuals intentionally fake or exaggerate systems? Whoa. Okay. Whoa. Hold on. No. Alright, well, fuck this guy. Fuck whoever the fuck Saturn is. Wow, fuck this person. Fuck Saturn Senshi. Bro, what the fuck? Okay. The one thing I don't think these fuckers understand is that no one is giving these hormones to children. These are medically based products that are based in the fucking, you know, it's like pharmaceuticals. You get pharmaceutical-based things, just like cough medicine, just like ibuprofen. You get that shit by being an adult. They don't let you have it unless you're an adult. So younger children can't even get a hold of it anyway. The person they are responding to is downright, like, just fucking wrong as well. The person they're responding to is, like, calling being trans an illness, which is just the same shit that homophobes did to us. So I know what the fuck I know how these fuckers think. Those guys are oppressors. And I fucking hate oppressors. You know how I feel about that shit. I don't like oppressors. I think oppressors are just Confederates, but they're rebranded Confederates. That is it. And you know how much I hate Confederates, you know? So it's like, that's who I think those fuckers are. Oppressors fucking suck. I honestly think these guys, like, if they were able to, they would be racist and sexist if they had the chance, you know? They'll be racist and sexist if they had the fucking chance, and of course they're gonna do that shit. Alright, anyway, let's continue. Sorry.
Big fan of giving children puberty blockers. Trans people will never leave.
Also, puberty blockers is just really dumb, because that's not what that said. Essentially what they want is the puberty to be different. They want essentially he read the tweet wrong. The tweet is saying that, yes, we should let, minors transition, which means that they would just be going through the opposite sex. Like, they would be going through the sex that they transition to's puberty instead. But we don't have the technology for that. Sorry, I am butting in once again. You're probably wondering why I even posted this video in the first place. This is mainly so I can, debunk myself, because I do not understand the technology when it comes to transitioning. I unfortunately am super uneducated on it. So all I understand is when somebody does not feel safe in their own skin, or when somebody is just feeling imposterous when they aren't actually able to be open. I understand that completely. The unfortunate scenario is I knew a bunch of people when, that didn't transition until they were adults. I did not realize how the process goes. I did not realize we have the technology to be able to prepare somebody for when they transition. And that's a fantastic thing. There's so much technology that I did not realize existed, and that makes me very happy. So I just want to post this because I had no idea how much we have advanced as society in order to make this possible. And I knew that people could end up transitioning so far that people can't even tell when somebody else has transitioned, which is fantastic. But I did not know that the entire process through it. All I know is the beginning and the end result and maybe part of the pieces through it, but I do not understand the technology at all. So unfortunately, I am not educated on this. I put Nyara's video below me because they explain everything. They explain everything on how this works. So I am not the person to be the, I'm not the person to be the mentor for anybody that is trans. I'm sorry. I am very supportive of the LGBTQ plus community. They are my allies. And I very much am here for it. I am unfortunately ignorant on this topic, and I should have never ever responded to this. I think I let the best get to me. I think I just saw my community get attacked, and I felt that I had to do something. But the worst thing is I am uneducated on this. I do not know anything. I do not have any sources. I do not have anything. So there's that. At least I don't think we do. That's not what this person is pushing as well. They clearly... Asmon clearly doesn't understand this shit. I mean, obviously, duh. He doesn't understand fucking expressionism. He doesn't understand, expressing yourself either, so, if he can't express himself with art and not understand art, then I definitely don't expect him to understand, expression when it comes to, people transitioning. So, yeah, that's already flag number fucking 1, but, alright. Yeah, fuck the person that, the person that the trans person responded to. Hold on, I need to figure out, let me look at their pronouns real fast. What was their name? Nyara VT. Oh, it's a VTuber. What the hell? This channel's so tiny. She, her, hers. Okay, but no, she is not saying that, what do you call it? She is not saying that we should be blocking puberty. She is saying, what she is saying is a little wild, though, to say, like, oh yes, we should let kids transition to the other gender that they identify with and make them go through that puberty. I don't know if that's possible in like, the modern day. And second off, again, it's minors. I don't know how I would feel about that. Okay, here we go. Again, I am super uneducated on the technology, but on top of it as well, it is also not my decision to make that choice for someone that, you know, doesn't feel comfortable being the gender that they currently are assigned at birth. That is just not my decision. That is someone else's body, and I am not the person that can make that decision. It's the same thing with abortion, you know? It's like, you should not make the decision for the person that is pregnant, right? It's like, they're the ones that should make the decision. They are carrying the child. They're the ones that are allowed to make that decision. It's their body. It is the same thing with trans people. It is their own body. They can do whatever they want with it because that is their choice. I do not know why I said this, because clearly I am very ignorant on this topic. The problem is we should let the person choose what they need to do. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. First off, Asmongold already is getting shit wrong, which is just making it so fucking annoying. You know what? Fuck it. Sure, we'll have this as the background. Hold on. This is actually a funny fucking background to have. Alright, let's see.
Leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans and give them the education and care we desperately needed when we were younger. Stop making it so difficult for us to be part of society.
I agree. What's wrong with that? Hold on. Trans people will never leave kids alone. Trans people will never leave kids alone. We want trans kids to be trans, give them education and care we desperately needed. I agree. Give them support. Guys, look, it's a stream and a stream. Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening. I mean, I agree. You give, like... kids are very fragile. And, you know, give them the support they need so they can make the decision in the future. You know? Not everybody is like a straight white male, right? Like, I know that's always like a core example and that's been used like a million fucking times. But just like, you know, not everybody is like, not everybody is, you know, a basic mold of the guy that fucking, you know, is the construction worker, right? You know, or like the, what's like a modern day like version, you know, nobody is like a hardcore, like, you know, down in dirt blue collar worker, you know, not everybody's like that, right? Like straight boy, like with a wife and taking care of the kid. Like, it's hard to have that life right now, which is probably like, which is just honestly fine, you know, because people kind of need independency anyway. Independency is just needed. That's the thing is, man, like, I don't understand if you, because here's the thing is, if you have independency, then you don't have to, you can be a lot more like educated in the future. Damn, my grammar sucks. I'm sorry. No, that's Jack's films. His is your grammar sucks. Also, color take to image and put it in a separate tab. Oh, you mean like this? There we go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, shoot, just support, you know, support the kids along the way, you know, and if they decide when the time is right that they want to change genders, then that is fine. That should be okay because they're an adult, you know. I'm not over this oppressive bullshit. If it's not hurting anyone, who cares? That's the thing is, that's how I bring it up. If it doesn't hurt anyone, who cares? Alright, what other bad takes
It
does
is
this
not
fucker have?
transphobic to not want kids to transition. This is not transphobic.
Yeah, but that's... Yeah, to be honest, I agree. No, I don't. Why did I say that? Okay. Here's the thing is, if my niece all of a sudden decided that they were like, hey, I want to be called Adam instead of, you know, their original name, right? Like, if they wanted to be a male and say, I'm a male now, or I you know, and they want to, like, wear boy clothes and, you know, do boy activities, why do I care? Like, that's the thing is, why do I care? Like, why would I care? Okay, cool, awesome. Like, it's not like there's really anything else that can really happen there. Like, it's just one of those things. If my sister was like, all of a sudden, hey, you know, I wanna transition to being a dude, and I wanna, like, you know, and I want to do man things, I guess. I don't know what a guys. I don't even know. That's also a blurred line. It's just it really doesn't matter. It's like if she changes her name from Jessica to Jake, then I don't care. That's fine. Like I don't see why this is such a big deal. I don't know why I cared so much about this. Support kids. If they want to, like, support the kids and, you know, give them the support they need because they're fucking children. So give them the support they need. And if they want to transition when they're an adult, that is fine. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily, like, that's not what was said here, though. I don't know why they're talking about it, but anyway, let's continue.
And it's always like so interesting that these people are
Okay,
like,
what is the clip he's using?
It is not transphobic to not want kids to transition. This is not transphobic. This is normal.
and it's always like so interesting that these people are like,
So what the fuck would you know about normality, fucking Asmongold? Anyway, you're a fucking content creator. What do you think? What do you know is normal?
obsessed with age of consent, with like
Yeah, that's kind of a problem, but can I see the whole clip? Hold on, wait. What was the clip? Hold on. Okay. Hold on. He pulled that way out of context. Hold on a second. Nah. He pulled that shit way out of context. Whoa. Hold on. Let's actually look at the entire clip because that is fucking crazy. Hold on. No. You're not just gonna take 2 seconds of a clip and then be like, fucking, oh yeah, no, oh god, this is crazy. I don't just want a piece of it of him being like staring at the fucking screen like a dumbass and then being like, oh my god, I can't believe they said that. Okay, it took me a fucking hour, but I finally found the actual clip. Okay, now, before this fucker actually says anything, I need the actual clip, because he paused it at 5 seconds. Okay, let's listen to what they're saying. Alright.
And it's always like so interesting that these people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like consent in general, but then they have like takes of how intersex people need to be forced into gender reassignment surgeries, etc., because they are broken and need to be fixed. Then
Okay, yeah, that's true. So
Badass VTuber model though.
yeah, well, so essentially what she is saying is that, like, she's using an example of saying that, like, people that like bring up the idea of age of consent, which is important, that is very fucking important, also bring up the thing about what? Hold on, let me see.
people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like consent in general, but then they have like takes of how intersex people need to be forced into gender reassignment surgeries, etc., because they are broken and need to be fixed.
Okay, and then intersex people need to be... So yes, literally consent is saying that, like, yes, you need age of people that talk about age of consent and consent period need to be for, and he's saying that, oh, the same people that
Don't
say
you
that
love
shit.
people that pause after 2 seconds to speak, refusing what was just said,
Yeah.
only to resume and realize that person said the exact same thing.
Well, yeah, no, so that's the thing is, the funniest thing is, so it is literally just the sake that he is saying the same people that talk about, like, age of consent, which is fucking important, saying that intersex people, like, they're saying that intersex people should be changed back to their original gender. Which is just, like, which is just fucked up. That's the context clip. He paused before that shit. He is trying to make it sound like the okay, so that's fucked. They're trying to make this person he's trying to make her sound like a pedophile. That is fucked up. That is very fucked up. No, hold on. Okay, so that's where he paused like at 2 seconds. Okay, let me make sure that that's what he did. Let me double check. Hold on.
It's so difficult for us to be part of society.
Let me see.
It is not transphobic to not want kids to transition. This is
And
not
that's true.
transphobic. This is normal.
And it's always like so interesting that these people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like
He paused there! Dude, you didn't hear the entire fucking sentence, you fucking idiot! Oh my god, okay. He paused before the actual sentence was done to fit his fucking narrative. Oh my god! This is why I hate content creators, man! Oh my fucking god! YouTubers did it again. Content creators did it again. I did this same shit with Beta Ida Delota, where he took y'all out of context. He took someone from in my chat, out of context, and put it into a scenario that did not fucking exist, and to fit his fucking narrative. Asmongold just did the same fucking shit. Yeah, so he pulled it out of context. All right. So let me see. What else does he have to say, huh? From what? Yeah, you're just stare like a fucking dumbass. This is not a pedophile. Dude, he is full blown. Like, his chat is brain rot. Like, pure brain rot. Is that it?
So I wasn't even planning to post this, but this genius decided to make a whole video about Asmon, and then I witnessed the biggest self-report in human history. This individual claims little children should be able to consent to life-altering hormone therapy.
No, they didn't. In the original clip, they did not do that. At all. Okay, cool. Now I gotta go fucking watch the original... And now I gotta go to the fucking creator themselves to listen. Oh my god, dude. This is so annoying. This is blatant misinformation. That is fucking crazy. This is so stupid. Okay, now I know why this was sent.
This individual claims
he's also using AI.
Children should be able to consent.
POV, you're jealous of another's fame / wanna destroy a person's livelihood. Bitch, go off color.
Dude, this person had 15,000 subs. Like, okay, on top of it too, this is a small fucking channel. Hold on, I mean, they're probably big on Twitch, right? They have 7,000.
Gosh, just a cat now?
Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah, that's a little cringe, but that's all right. I'm not caring about the cringe right now. 7,000, okay, so they're still pretty large, but against, hold on.
OMG off color, Steven Universe ref.
Dude, I am so fucking annoyed right now. Against 3.6 million followers, awesome. God damn, dude, just like out of fucking nowhere. Okay. Hold on, now, okay. This is a 2-minute clip, and I already have a massive problem. Yeah, here's the funniest thing, is the thumbnail's not even clickbait, you know? Hold on. There it is, right here. Okay, the slop tubers fuel transphobia. Okay, where did he self-report? Let's go to the exact fucking clip that he pulled. Hold on. Dude, am I serious? Alright. Also, I'm gonna like this person's fucking video because, like, you know, I'm also gonna subscribe because now I'm actually just pissed. Now I'm like, you know what? Do they have a Patreon? Fuck it. You know what? This person has a team, too. Good on them. Profile pics and emotes. Maybe I'll... Oh, no, this is the person that does their emotes. You know what? How about this? I'll support this person. Like, clearly, like, I'll support somebody that supported them. How about that? Somebody that's clearly, like, the fucking... Someone that's clearly, like, Here, I'll even message them. I'm gonna buy a fucking emote from this person too, because why the fuck not? I'm gonna buy an emote from this person too. There we go. I'll support the fucking. We'll see what happens, and then I'll put it in the. Then I'll use that as an emote now. God damn. All right. Jesus Christ. Okay, where did they self-report? If you read her what her post is about, you can definitely tell what she was about to say before he cut her off and to make her look bad. Exactly. Fucking exactly. Where did he self-report? Let me find out. Where did he? Sorry, she. God damn it. Sorry, I'm mixing up Asmongold and fucking this actual beautiful person. All right. Jeez Louise, I'm sorry. I'm just angry. I'm very angry. I'm sorry. I just completely, like, I'm going back and forth. Sorry, I'm misgendering her. I apologize.
When I, for example, talk about consent, the same with me saying, if a trans kid cannot consent to HRT, then why can they consent to puberty?
What? What? Sorry, their accent is so thick. On oh my god.
They may be confused in speech too.
Yeah, I don't know what age of T is either.
If a trans kid cannot consent with me,
hold on, but you didn't listen to what they said before though. Hold on.
To like address the claims of like trans kids don't exist because they are too young to transition and like all these things. They shouldn't have HRT. It's the same with me saying, hey, you know, if a trans kid cannot consent to HRT, then why can they consent to puberty?
So in this, I didn't realize they said HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. I did not realize that this could happen with kids, and I did not realize this was an argument that people could say that kids could consent to HRT. I really do not have any say in any of this. This part's really fucking weird. For fucking sure. That was a weird-ass comparison, but again, like, it's just... Asmongold is trying to claim that this person is a pedophile, which is downright false, because that is not what they said. They did not say that, oh, kids should consent. They used a context from what people have said previously. That's a little stinky thing to do, so Stinky, I might have to ask him to go to the bathroom. Yeah, exactly. So when you make a sentence, right, like, I fucking hate that I have to do this, but, like... You know, when you say, like, okay, let's say, you know, like, let's say I say that, I don't know, like, fucking, I don't know, like, let's say somebody says the term, like, I'll use a sarcastic tone, right? Like, I hate, I don't know, grifters. I don't know what the fuck grifters are, but I hate grifters, right? And then I'll use a quote context, right? Of a person saying, "Oh, grifting is the grifting. What do you call it? Grifting is the best thing in the world." And then my response would be, "No, it's not." Right? Like. The problem is, essentially, I said I hate grifters, right? And then the person that I'm taking out of context would say, oh, grifting is the best in the world, right? That is a quote. That is a full-blown quote. And then I say, no, it's not. Essentially, what he is doing, me when I am stuttering in a stuttering competition and my opponent is ColorStormFur, yeah, I know. My stuttering is terrible, but essentially, Asmongold is not taking this entire sentence. What he is doing is taking out of context, like, is taking clips that are using context clues, that are using things like a quote. He's using a quote that somebody else said, and then just using that as fact of what this person said. Like, and that's the problem. This person did not say that. This person did not say the quote. The person that did this said the quote. It's so dumb. This is the dumbest shit and the dumbest take you can have. Like, the original clip we used was not what was actually being said, so that's already been debunked. He used the quotes that they used as an example. Asmongold is a fucking idiot. He's got the mind of a fucking second grader. He clearly, like, this is how I know this dude doesn't read, right? Like, this is how I know this dude doesn't read, right? Like, he doesn't read. So, like, because anybody can understand that they just made a fucking quote after, like, using that as an example and then making a counterpoint to it. You know, that's the point, is you take someone's quote and then you make a counterpoint to it. That is the point. That's what debating is. So basically anything that Asmongold said is irrelevant. It's already been debunked. Like, straight, it took 2 seconds of research. It took, like, a few minutes of research to find it. So yeah, essentially, this person was taken out of context not once, but twice. And, like, the problem is, they didn't keep the whole context. Honestly, by this point, I'm gonna probably shit on him now, because he's being transphobic. He's not just being transphobic, he's being sexist. That's the worst thing. He's being a sexist, which is even worse. Like, that's the funniest thing, is he's being a sexist asshole. That's what's happening. Like, he's being a sexist asshole that's trying to, like, get somebody canceled. That is what he is doing. Like, that is some pure Confederate behavior right there.
They don't want to allow something they could regret. If they can't consent to HRT, if they can't decide which puberty they want to go through.
Yeah, exactly. If they can't consent, they can't choose which puberty they go through. Exactly. So, what are you pulling out of context here, dude? Like, this is the thing. What are you actually, like, saying here, you know? Nyara quoted a right-wing person saying they hate pedophiles. And then the right-wingers basically also say that intersex people should identify with their assigned birth gender, which is fucked, right? Like, they do a full 180 and say this shit. Now, do I think that that is comparable? No, definitely not comparable.
Okay, I'll just wait until he responds to see if he admits he made a mistake.
I hope to God he does. I hope to God Asmongold does, honestly. But I doubt it. Asmongold has never taken responsibility, ever. He never takes responsibility. No, that's a lie. He does take responsibility, and then he pulls a 180 and then goes back to where he started. So, you know. Oy vey. He used an incomplete sentence, quoted like fucking... Then, you know... And then what happened is Nyara you quoted something that another fucking right-wing person said. Like, he quoted what Asmongold was saying. You know what? Hold on. Sorry. He was summing up what Asmongold was saying. He was giving a God damn it. She was giving a summary of... See, this is so annoying, switching between he and she. What do I call it? She was giving a summary of what Asmongold was saying, right? Ay. So Nyara was giving a summary of what Asmongold was saying, and then they made a response to what they were saying, or the summarization of it, and then they debated it. But instead, instead Asmongold used that summary and used it as Nyra's word. Oy vey. Does it make sense now? Oy vey. That is essentially what happened. It's just... It's so stupid, but, like... It's just... Asmongold does not have the brain power to understand what the fuck happened. That's the thing is... I do not think Asmongold is going to apologize. Why? Because if Asmongold cannot understand a quote being taken out of context... then he is definitely not going to understand that Nyara
I mean, putting a quote without
that.
quotation marks or any source or anything in the summary saying, hey, these are not my words.
I mean, putting a quote without quotation marks or any source or anything summary saying, hey, these are not my words. Wait, I mean, putting a quote without quotation marks. But they did use quotation marks. That's the thing is, they did use quotation marks. They quoted the radical wing person. Again, I do think that they probably could have done the voice better. Like, honestly, they could have done the voice of what the fucking right-wing person was saying, right? And then this is what they said. This is what they're saying that the right-wing person is saying, right? And then, essentially, afterwards, they gave their statement. You know, they sandwiched their statement in between each one of these things. You know, they said this, then they made a statement, and then they brought up this as also the thing that they say, and then they made a statement. That is called debating.
Can we treat him like he was accused of being a witch in the Salem witch trials?
Yeah, most
laughing face.
Can we treat him like he was being accused? What? Fucking Asmongold? Yeah, sure. I actually can do you one better. Here's the thing is, yeah, no, not yet apparently, because now instead this idiot decided to respond to the fucking video that was responding to him, and you know, it really just ended up being a massive problem. So now instead of me actually just looking at that video, instead I will actually do my own research and we will figure out what HRT and puberty blockers are. But before that happens,
they're building like a 2.5 million pound mosque somewhere in like northern England that doesn't even have like a large Muslim population. And I was like, of course they are. Yeah, of course they are. I get increasingly angry when I see people who are just like, well, they're not doing anything illegal, so like you can't really be mad at them. It's like this is very clearly a hostile takeover. Like, we're experiencing it in the US via illegal immigration. They're experiencing it in the UK via, like, the migrant crisis nonsense and refugees, which, potato, basically the same fucking thing. And it's like, our politicians are assisting these people with both demographic replacement as well as just making citizens' lives worse in general. They're changing the entire culture of these countries. It might not be a hostile takeover like you see in war. There's no guns and battleships and bombs, but it is still a hostile takeover. It is still going to change these countries irreparably in the future. UK is almost all of Europe. I'm specifically speaking of the UK because of the mosque thing.
Now, I have been seeing these clips also taken out of massive context as well for Kirsche. This is why I cannot make an insane argument for Kirsche, because, like, it feels like a lot of it is coming from something that she at least tried to look into just a little bit. This is kind of where the problem is, right? Because I can definitely tell she is not a person that really likes Muslim as a religion so far, but she doesn't seem to be a person that doesn't seem to just hate Muslims, period. I mean, the hostile takeover thing is a little much, but also, who knows by that point, right? Because I also have the same opinion about Mormons. I do think that Mormons and very cultish personalities of very cultish type religions do take over countries quite well, trying to blur the lines between church and state. I think there's a very logical reasoning here. The reason why I can say this is because a lot of times I also have the same problem in my own state. We have a Mormon temple that cost $7 million to build. And again, I don't think, it obviously is nothing crazy, but the population in northern England with Muslims does match up the same way with Mormons in Arizona. So I do honestly get where this is coming from. But the problem that I really want to focus on is the cultural shift aspect, because she is talking about a literal cultural shift of being like, oh, well, this is going to change the culture of how everybody, like, you know, thinks about things. And to be honest, I don't think that's really that big of a deal. I mean, if everybody was all of a sudden freaking Muslim, it doesn't really seem like that would change much. But then again, we have also seen in multiple scenarios how religion can cause war if you have too many conflicting beliefs. Now, to be honest, I do not think a hostile takeover is what's happening here. I think the problem is, again, the immigrant issue in the United States was Joe Biden unfortunately took away a lot of the rules and regulations you have to do to be an official legal immigrant here. And it became such a big, part of just chaos, like just straight chaos, to the level where now it's just kind of getting to the level where you need somebody that's a little bit harsher with immigration. The scary part about this, though, is we have a president that is going a little bit harder than actually, just dealing with immigrants. Andrew Callahan has a very great video on this where it talks about the whole immigration issue and the reason why it just exists in the first place. So again, I do not think I can validate the attack on Kirsche. This is what the weird thing is about this. Okay, let's learn about what puberty blockers are. There's no penises on screen, so we're good. Okay, so let's see. Let's find out what puberty blockers. When taken regularly, GnRH analogs stop the body from making sex hormones. That includes testosterone and estrogen, right? So that's fine, right? Puberty blockers can be used to delay the changes in puberty, transgender, and gender-diverse youth who have started puberty. The medicines most often used for this purpose are called, gonadotropin. Gonadotropin, gonadotropin. Doubling keeps the vowel short. Gonadotropin, I guess. Releasing hormone. Okay. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. GnRH. We'll call it GnRH. Gonadotropin is apparently how you say that. So I am sorry. I'm going to mispronounce it the entire time. But there you go. H analogs. Here is a summary of their possible benefits, side effects, and long-term effects. Okay. Here we go. Now, let's learn about it. When taken regularly, GnRH analogs stop the body from making sex hormones. That includes testosterone and estrogen. Sex hormones affect primary sex characteristics. These are the sexual organs present at birth. They include the penis, the scrotum and testicles, and the uterus, ovaries, and vagina. Secondary sex characteristics. These are the physical changes in the body that appear during puberty. Examples include breast development and growth of facial hair. In people assigned male at birth, GnRH analogs show the growth of facial body hair, prevent voice deepening. Okay, hold on. So analogs show, prevent voice deepening and limit the growth of the penis, scrotum, and testicles. Cool. So then it can get removed later. Essentially, it shrinks the dick. And if you want the dick to grow, it will grow. All right. In people assigned female at birth, this treatment limits or stops breast development and stops menstruation. Menstruation. Jeez Louise. Okay. Again, no titties. That is it, right? Gender identity is internal sense of being male. Okay, sense of being male or female. Wait, so what are the possible benefits of puberty blockers? Okay, gender identity is the internal sense of being male or female. Neither or some combination of both. Gender dysphoria is a feeling of distress that can happen when gender identity differs from a person's sex assigned at birth or from sex-related physical characteristics. Some transgender or gender-diverse people experience gender dysphoria, others do not. That is a real thing. Your mental well-being is important, and mental health is very important. Wait, let me just research. Research what? What am I researching? Wait, do you have any OCs that are in a relationship? Okay, got it. Okay, we'll look at that in a sec. For transgender or gender-diverse youth who have gender dysphoria, delaying puberty might improve mental well-being, ease depression and anxiety, improve social interactions with others, lower the need for future surgeries, ease thoughts or actions of self-harm. That is important, right there. Because there's a lot of people that commit suicide. It is very important to have this be like the main highlight. Now, let's see. Taking puberty blockers alone, however, without other medical or behavioral treatment, might not be enough to ease gender dysphoria. Okay, there it is. So it can help, but it won't sometimes. Sometimes you need actual medicines to help you with your mental ability. There you go. Perfect. Boom. Okay, what are the criteria for use of puberty blockers? In most cases, to begin using puberty blockers, an individual needs let's see, show a lasting pattern of gender nonconformity or gender dysphoria. Got it. Cool. That could be check number 1. Have gender dysphoria that began or worsened at the start of puberty. There you go. Okay, address psychological, medical, or social problems that could interfere with the treatment. There's another one. So again, you have to be already going through the puberty to be like, essentially, this is a person freaking out that they are going the other gender. This is the person freaking out that their puberty is hitting, and then all of a sudden, maybe they want to change it. And now you have to be able to understand the treatment and agree to have it. This is called informed consent. This is a big word right here. Consent. Right here. Consent. Anyway. Alright, puberty blockers are not recommended for children who have not started puberty. Recommended, luckily. So again, it is not being brought to kids that can't start puberty. That is what it is for. Alright? In most cases, youth aren't old enough to get medical treatment without a parent, guardian, or other caregiver's permission. That is another thing. You also have to get the parent's permission. Another thing. This is called medical consent. For those who haven't reached the age of medical consent, a parent, guardian, or caregiver often needs to agree to use the use of puberty blockers, which agreed, right? Full-blown agreed. Parent and family support and encouragement also has been shown to be an important part of boosting mental health and well-being throughout this treatment. Boom. Are changes permanent? Let's find out. Jesus Christ. GnRH analogs don't cause permanent physical changes. Instead, they pause puberty that often offers a chance to explore gender identity. It also gives youth and their families time to plan for psychological, medical, developmental, social, and legal issues that may lie ahead. They pause puberty. That is it. Okay, here we go. And then this is what we were talking about before, right? It also gives the youth and their families time to plan for psychological, medical, or developmental or social, issues. We already saw that. Okay, when a person stops taking GnRH analogs, puberty starts again. There you go. In general, puberty begins around 10 to 11, though it may start earlier and later. The effect puberty blockers depends when the person begins to take the medicine. GnRH analog treatment can begin at the start of puberty to delay the development of secondary sex characteristics. Secondary sex characteristics, again, can either be the physical changes in the body that appear during puberty, including breast and hair. This is not affected. Let me read that again. GnRH analog treatment can begin at the start of puberty to delay the development of secondary sex characteristics. That is it. Delay secondary sex characteristics. That is what puberty blockers are. They block your body hair if you are a male. They block your breast if you're female. Meaning that eventually your body will start just gaining breast. And what about the prolonged hypogonadropic hypogonadism? Wouldn't that be a risk? Well, let's find out. Let's see. In slightly later stages of puberty, the treatment could be used to stop menstruation or erections. Okay. It also can prevent further development of secondary sex characteristics. Okay, so it can happen that. Again, they have to already be going through puberty for you to get approved of this. You have to be going through all of these to be able to get puberty blockers. And you need a parent's consent. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's see here. Slightly later stages of puberty, the treatment could be used to stop menstruation or erections. It also may prevent further development of sex characteristics. While many people take medicines for a few years, everyone is different. After delaying puberty for several years, some teens might decide to stop taking puberty blocking medicine, or they may start taking hormones that match their gender identity. This is called gender affirming hormone therapy. So essentially, this is if they actually this is essentially if they decide to continue having if they continue to have the gender that they have. And of course, they can always change it later. They can change it when they're an adult. That is the beauty of changing gender and the technology we have. Adults can change that, if they want to. GnRH analog... Oops, shoot, hold on. Let's see. How is the medication given? GnRH analog medicine is prescribed, given by monitor, blah, blah, blah. Healthcare, normal, basic stuff. Every 3 to 6 months, or maybe given as an implant placed under the skin, upper arm. Plant needs to be replaced every 12 months. So you need to take it every 3 months, 3 to 6 months. If you don't want to if you want to continue and be the other gender, be like, okay, I'll just stop taking it. You have years. Here's the problem is then, that means you have your whole teenhood to decide if you're male or female. That's already pretty easy to figure out. That's the thing is, I figured out that I was gay at 13. And that's the thing is, I knew I was gay at 13. My hormones, when it came in, and I was like, man, I'm really, I found I was really very, there's instances where I'm not going to say, but, say who, but yeah, there was definitely some instances where I definitely found a lot of dudes hot. It was bizarre for me. And again, I couldn't get to that until I was 18. Which is a fucking problem. I knew I was gay. I could tell I was gay. That's the problem is I knew, well, here's the thing is I didn't even know what gay was at the time. But I knew I was into males. I knew that for some odd reason I felt this weird attraction to males, and then all of a sudden fucking and then now and the problem is I was getting support from other people in the furry community that were helping me if I was gay or not. That was trying to figure out okay, are these signs showing that you're gay? It is the same thing with being trans. Is there signs showing that you're trans? That is the problem. You have years to figure it out. Again, it's not, it's just who is actually changing their gender. By this point as well, who is reversing their effects of the gender that they chose? By the way, you gotta remember everything that this person has to show is pretty high up there, plus a parent's consent. They have to have some insane anxiety to be able to even get puberty blockers. Hi, how you doing, Catching Fire? What's up? They have to have insane anxiety, even if they're gonna get if they have puberty, if they are even gonna approve for puberty blockers. They have to have massive gender dysphoria and feeling imposterous. And they have to freak out during their puberty for this to happen. They have to be, they have to have some insane anxiety to figure this out. On top of it, there's therapy figuring out if they feel like they are actually a different gender. There we go. Gender affirming hormone therapy. Does it say they have to start puberty as a requirement, or is it? No, you have to start puberty. You have to start showing signs of puberty before you're able to take it. You have to show signs of puberty. You have to have a parent's consent, and you have to show signs of puberty. If you do not show signs of puberty, you cannot take it. That is what it is. You are not allowed to take it unless you start showing signs of puberty. That's the thing, man. I mean, shoot. In most cases, to begin using puberty blockers, an individual needs, very important word, needs to, show a lasting pattern of gender nonconformity or gender dysphoria. Have gender dysphoria that began or worsened at the start of puberty. Address any psychological, medical, or social problems that could interfere with the treatment. This is very important right here. Any psychological, medical, or social problems. So essentially, if you are a person that is saying that, like, if you are a person that has other issues and a therapist has to approve you for this shit. A literal medical professional has to approve you for this. A person that actually goes through, like, everything that you're going through. You have to go through. You have to medically be fine. You have to be able to medically be able to take it. Because, you know, people could have, like, many issues. Like, you know, have a lot of disabilities, right? Why put the recommendation of not using them on children who haven't started it if it was a requirement to begin with? What are you talking about? Why put the recommendation on not using them who haven't started it if it was a requirement to begin with? What do you mean requirement to begin with? What was a requirement? Puberty blockers aren't a requirement. In order to be able to be approved, you have to have these, man. That is how it goes. Not only that, you have to be knowledgeable on it too. That's pretty difficult for a child to understand. No, starting puberty is a requirement to get them. Yes, you have to. The problem is you have to have gender dysphoria. If you feel like there's gender dysphoria, but here's the problem though. That's not the only requirement though. The problem is the requirement to get them is you have to be starting puberty and you have to talk to a therapist about it. A therapist and a medical professional has to approve you. Then why have that recommendation right under the list? Puberty blockers are not recommended for children who have not started puberty. Because, you know, you shouldn't give your kids puberty blockers if they haven't started puberty. Again, needs. And this is an additional thing. This is stupid, but this is a disclaimer. Again, people are insane. I get it. But at the same time, like, I don't think this is even needed to be said. To be honest, I don't think this needs to be said. The only thing that matters is these. This is the requirements. This is what you have to have. That wouldn't be needed if it was a requirement or prohibited. You're right, maybe it wouldn't be needed. But again, this is a medical paper. This is a paper made by the Mayo Clinic. Made by a literal hospital. This is one made by a fucking hospital. That suggests that it is not allowed, but not advised. Yes, it's not allowed. It's not allowed and not advised. You have to have these in order to have this. You have to go through puberty in order to have this. To be honest, yes, this is dumb. You're not focusing on the right thing here, though. This does not suggest that it's allowed. That is the problem. This does not suggest anything. Is this needed? Sure. Like I said, is this like a thing? Sure. But again, this is the needs. This is what the needs are. From a hospital. Themselves. This is the hospital saying this. This is the Mayo Clinic saying this. I've been to the Mayo Clinic. This is a hospital saying this. Again, have to have gender dysphoria that began or worsened at the start of puberty. And then, lastly, address any physiological, medical, or social problems that could interfere with the treatment. Essentially, meaning that you need a therapist to be able to, you need a therapist and a doctor that essentially has to approve it along with your parent. You need a parent's consent, you need a doctor's consent, which again, doctors, very important people that know what they're doing. So there you go. And then a therapist. You have to go through 3 stages to be able to do that shit. I'm now questioning myself since I haven't had gender dysphoria in a while, except from when my father says old pronouns, even though I've changed. And that's the thing, is maybe you don't need puberty blockers then, who knows? That's why you figure it out. Interesting. Does it list exceptions? Said in most cases. Most cases? Where? Oh, in most cases. I do not know. Where are the exceptions? Hold on, let me see. Is there exceptions to puberty blockers? Exceptions to puberty blockers. It might mean except in most cases, as in it doesn't get approved, but let's see. Is there exceptions? Puberty blockers may be prescribed for minors with medically verifiable disorder or sex development. Okay, so a medically verifiable disorder, that's what this is. I am so confused. Medically verifiable disorder of sex development, or for those experiencing intense gender nonconformity or gender dysphoria. However, many states have enacted restrictions or ban on their use, often requiring parental consent or specific clinical criteria. So you have to have a disorder, which is essentially what I have. You have to have, like, so you have to be somebody that is growing breast, and you're like a dude, and you've been biologically told you're a dude. So that's mainly what that is talking about. That's just essentially saying, like, people that have, like, you know, because that existed before, where dudes were like growing breast and they were male. They had a penis, but they also had breasts. Yeah, that's also a thing. So that's also a form, which honestly, by that point, I get it. Because then you got to start giving them medicines that make sure they don't have boobies. That is probably important. By that point, you're telling a child, like, hey, it's like, if you're actually saying you're a dude and you're growing breast, you might need to do that. That paper should have included exceptions if they are going to say in most cases. Well, this is the case. This is the case they're talking about. That is the problem. This is the case they're talking about, is if a dude, like, let's say if I, like, you know, I'm a dude, right? And let's say I start growing breast. Like, essentially, I would have to go to a doctor and be like, hey, I'm not a woman. I need to stop growing breast. And essentially that will happen, right? Like, that is essentially what that is. This one I definitely did not address in this, but yes, it is called gynecomastia, which is something that does end up actually developing breast tissue involuntarily, and it does happen in males sometimes, where it just happens. This is not like a thing that is like on purpose, just sometimes males like can grow breast at random points. It is a massive hormone imbalance. It's weird. I don't know exactly why this is the case. Some people are just born with it, and it's very bizarre. But yes, it can happen. I know many people that have had literal breasts before, and they've had to get surgery to get rid of those breasts because they were dudes. I am talking about specifically cis men that were born as men. And that is the thing, is there is a lot of actual biological males that have grown breasts before, and they had to get rid of them by getting surgery. This is just a thing this is just a thing that can happen with males. That is a thing that is a disability. Unfortunately, it does happen, and that is just life, you know. It's like when anybody gets any other kind of disease. You can be born and you can end up eventually gaining some disease in the future that lets something bad happen. I'm glad that, you know, the way of being able to remove it exists. And honestly, I really hope that continues. Unless you're a dude that wants breasts, then hey, you know, good on you. Then you're a breasted male. You're a male with breasts. Congrats. You know. There we go. Hormone replacement therapy is a medical treatment that supplements the body with hormones that are no longer produced. Okay. No, this is actually giving someone hormones. This is giving someone's hormones, which is different. This is making sure that you actually feel like this is for like women that have like menopause and stuff, which is treatment for, yeah, no, it's for old ladies essentially. HRT is for old ladies. It's for like if you're like 55 and you have like menopause. That is what HRT is normally for. Intersex. Wait, what? Hold on. What are you talking about? What's it called when people are born with male and female parts? Yeah, intersex. Yeah. Yeah, this is for like old people. That is mainly what it's for, you know? But again, it's not like a fucking, again, I don't know, man. This is like to make sure that you have the hormones for like, you know, whatever gender you are, to be able to develop what you have. That is the thing, is that's to be able to develop to be the other gender, right? That is essentially what the HRT is. So essentially, puberty blockers are stage 1, where it stops the puberty, and then stage 2 is HRT, I guess. You know, stage 2 is HRT, where they start going, is where they want to actually start transitioning. Can you go back down to the long-term side effects? Where? Here? Are changes permanent? Let's see. GnRH analogs don't cause any permanent physical changes. Instead, they pause puberty that offers the change to explore gender identity. It also gives youth to their families time to plan for psychological, medical development, and social legal issues. Okay, hold on, wait. When a person, puberty starts, should be further down. Let's see. What are the possible side effects and complications? Let's see. Possible side effects of GnRH analog treatment include swelling at the site of the shot, weight gain, hot flashes, headaches, mood changes. Sure, that's just a teenager. Use of GnRH analogs might have long-term effects on growth spurts. Okay, here we go. Growth spurts, bone growth, bone density, fertility, depending on the medicine is started. Your growth plates fuse after a certain age. If individuals assigned at male birth begin using GnHR analogs early in puberty. Okay, early in puberty, here we go. They might not develop enough skin on the penis and scrotum to be able to have some types of gender affirming surgeries later in life. Okay, there we go. But other surgery approaches usually are available. Well, there you go. So there are permanent changes. If, might. There's a might here. And again, this is a might, and if it does, this will be dealt with. If they will take you off of it, that is what medical professionals do. Just like how, here's the thing is, ADHD medicine gives me hollow bones, right? If I don't want hollow bones anymore, and if I can't work, then I will be off of it. This is the same shit. They give me hollow bones, and if I have hollow bones, I can't work. The paper has contradicted itself by saying it didn't. Okay, here we go. GnRH analogs don't cause permanent physical changes. Instead, they pause puberty. Which is true. Long-term effects, though, can be these. That is if you take... So here's the thing is, if you take it for a long time, which is possible, if you take it over and over and over again, essentially your growth will be different, your bone growth will be different, your bone density is different, and fertility is different. Essentially, this is what it's saying. Instead of you growing the size of a male, you are growing the size of a female. If you are growing the size of a female, you are growing the size of a male now. That is essentially what that is saying. Bone growth, same thing. You'll have female bone density instead of male bone density. You'll have, like, if you're a female to male, you'll be a male bone density instead of a female bone density. Same with bone growth. Same with growth spurts. That is all this is saying. All this is saying is you will just, like, if you are, you know, a male, and then you take HRT, or you take GnRH, sorry, this is what it is. If you take puberty blockers, all that does is it just like all that does is just make it different. That is it. That is what it is saying. Again, you can go off of it at any time. If you feel that you are like, if you are a teenager and you are going through being like a different gender and you decide that you want to change it, guess what? You can revert back to it. And if you're that concerned with bone density, let's be here. Hold on. Bone density of males. Let's see. What's the bone density of males? Oh, it varies. Never mind. It varies a lot. My bad. Yeah, I probably should have known that, depending on your size. Yeah, I mean, you know, essentially your bones will grow differently. That is it. That is all that seems to be changing. Those who take GnRH analogs typically have their height checked every few months. Here we go. Perfect. And on top of it, those who take GnRH analogs typically have their height checked every few months. Essentially, and then yearly bone density and bone age test may be advised. Okay, this is advised. This is kind of a problem. This does need to be checked. Oh, wait. Be advised by the doctor. Never mind. Sorry. So essentially, here's the thing, is there are security measures for this as well. There are security measures. GnRH also has their height checked every few months, and if it happens, they are advised by the doctor to deal with it. The doctor will be advised to do bone tests. To support bone health, youth... Okay, hold on. To support bone health, youth taking puberty blockers may need to take calcium and vitamin D supplements. Huh. Interesting. And that's it. Yeah, so there's a harm in using it for too long, you know. Well, no. That's the thing is, essentially, they have a problem for this, though. Here's the thing is, if you change gender, essentially, they watch it every few months. If they start noticing a change, the doctor will tell them, hey, you need to take some bone tests. Simple as that, just like a doctor should. And then, after that, they will give them supplements to have healthy bones. Not much of a problem there, is there? Ugh. So here's the thing is, bone growth, bone density, and growth spurts are being dealt with. The only thing you have to worry about is fertility. Do you want to be a male? Do you want to be a female? Do you want to have a penis? Do you not? Do you feel like a guy, or do you feel more like a woman? Notice how nothing in here says that the penis doesn't continue growing? Like, this is the thing, man. It doesn't, you know. Let's see. So there is harm in using it for too long, and you have a window before permanent harm is done. But how long do they know before that happens? Well, they check every few months. That's what I'm saying. They will know when they transition. It implies it by saying that there won't be enough skin for medical operations. If individuals at birth begin using GnRH analogs early in puberty, they might develop not enough skin on the penis and scrotum to be able to have some types of gender-affirming surgeries later in life. But other surgery approaches usually are available. Boom. Problem solved. You know, I don't know, man. They want a penis, they'll have a penis. They want a vagina, they'll have a vagina. Like, it's not that, it's really, it's complicated, but, well, you just said that it doesn't say that it stops growing, but it, yeah, but this is the problem. It doesn't stop growing your bones. But right here, it says, like, look, growth spurts, bone growth, bone density, fertility, right? But now, you go here, those who take GnRH analogs typically have their height checked every few months. So again, it's checked on. Essentially, yearly bone density, bone age, tests may be advised to support bone health, and again, like, you'll get calcium and vitamin D supplements. Which again, calcium and vitamin D, very easy to get. There's a lot of things with calcium and vitamin D. You know, go down to the other skin. You mean this one way up here? This is the only ones that say skin. Because up here, it just says it can be implemented in the upper arm, but it has to be replaced every 12 months. So there's also that. You know, they're altering your body. That is it. And like I said, it's pretty amazing that this technology exists. Like I said, there's really nothing that's a big issue here. Here's the thing, man. If you identify a certain way, who cares by this point, right? This is what my problem is. Like, even with all of this shit, like everything here, do you honestly think... Look, I am gay, right? And I understand what it is like being someone that is very confused about my life, right? It took me a long time to figure out that I was into males, right? It took me a long time to figure out that being with a male was just a normal thing. Do you honestly not think that the same process is done with trans people? If somebody thinks that they are a different gender and knows they are a different gender with confidence, with therapy, they go through a therapeutic process. Here's the thing is, where is it? If they go through therapy and a doctor tells them that they can have it, and they deal with all their social problems, then they know they want to be the opposite gender. They can say with confidence that they want to be the opposite gender. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is a safety net for everything. The point is that it's not that medical intervention is done to maximize the damage, minimize the damage over what causes what? What are you talking about? What causes what? Not that medical intervention is done to minimize the damage over time, which runs counter to the claim that doesn't cause permanent damage. But that's the thing is, though, like, if it does, like I said, here's the reason why, though. The reason why is because of this. This is why. They have safety nets for if this shit happens, they have safety nets for it. Again, every few months, they are checked. Every few months. So that means every, 3 months, maybe, at max, they are checked to make sure that everything is going okay. And if it isn't, bone health is dealt with. But here's the problem, though. Make the argument rather than it can be stopped at any time, or that it doesn't cause permanent damage. Here's the problem, though. Here's the problem. If it doesn't, then who cares? If there is a safety net for it, and the person is happy and healthy, irregardless, here's the thing is, they know this is weird, right? Yes, this is strange. But again, here's the thing is, they're saying that it doesn't cause permanent damage, right? The reason why it doesn't cause permanent damage is because of this. Because there is someone constantly monitoring them. That is not terms for permanent damage. That means they can stop it before it starts. You see where I'm getting at here? There's a medical safety net if everything goes wrong. Even if everything goes wrong. Let's say everything goes wrong, right? Let's say that the person right now starts, not having growth spurt. Boom, this. This is the thing, man. Permanent damage isn't going to happen because there's backup for it. There is a reason to be able to allow it to not do that. You see what I'm saying now? I don't think I have to even talk about this video anymore now. Because now, I just full blown. My own fucking research, unlike fucking Mr. Asmongold here, fucking Asmon trash here and actually just fucking did what I had to. What other treatments are needed? Let's see. Assignment and counseling by behavioral health care professional can help youth and their families as they move through the decision-making process about puberty blockers. There you go, there's the fucking therapist again. Behavioral health care also is an important support of... Okay, yep, we already know this. Talking about the individual gender, identifying with teachers, school staff, blah, blah, organizations, and yep. Okay. After a time, adjusting to puberty blockers and confirming gender identity, gender-affirming hormone therapy might be an option. This can develop masculine or feminine secondary sex characteristics, help better align the body with individual gender identity. Some of the changes triggered by gender-affirming hormone therapy cannot be reversed. Well, there you go. So there we go, I guess. Some of the changes triggered by gender-affirming hormone therapy cannot be reversed. Essentially, when you are fully converted, it can't be reversed. Oh, well, requirements to reverse, though. That's interesting. So essentially, you'd have to have surgery if you decide to reverse. Which, again, doesn't seem like much of a big deal to me. Wait, where does it say that it stopped? It stopped should those concerns or health problems arrive? Well, no, right here is what's saying that. Here's the thing, is when this shit happens, if this is the problem, this is the solving point. Not that hard to understand. There's a medical way to medically take care of everybody. Let's see. Where does it say that it should be stopped? Stop should those concerns or health problems arrive. Let me see. Stopped. Nope. Doesn't say anything about stopping it. About concerns. Concern. Oh, just one word. Just one word for concern. It's important to stay on schedule with all medical appointments. Between appointments, contact a member of healthcare team if any changes cause concern. So yes, just... It's so easy to find this, man. If I just, like, sent this to every fucking person that actually, like, you know... If people just... Here's the thing is, use basic logic and use this. It's like trans people are people too. I do not care. You go through therapy to figure out if it's correct, right? And not only that, the doctor still has to say, like, okay, yes, you actually are, like, approved for this. And calcium and vitamin D rather than taking the patient off of it when they have found permanent damage. Well, no. The solution is if they get there, this is supposed to help them. This is supposed to get it to the point where they can have happy, healthy bones. Well, actually, hold on. Yeah, that's the answer. That's the answer, yes. If they want happy, healthy bones, then supplements. You know, it's not that hard to figure out. You know, you want happy, healthy bones. You know, here you go. Supplements. And, you know, if I'm going to assume something, I'm assuming if you are still going to take it and still want to take it, then this is your risk, right? Like, if you still want to take it, you know, you have to do this. But if you're taken off of it, you get this and that's it, right? Like, it's not... I don't see what's such a big deal here. I'm going over this a million times, but, you know, interesting. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, fuck it, man. It's your risk. It's your body. You get to choose what to do with it. You see where I'm coming from now. You get to choose what to do with your own body. That's what should matter in the end. If you choose to go through this, this is your decision as a person. It is like any decision in the world. If you want to make a decision you make any decisions because you make your decisions, right? You are a person. It is your body. You get to choose what you want to do with it. You know, if I make the decision to eat, like, shitty food all the time and, like, you know, die of, like, you know, I don't know, liver cancer or something, that was my decision, right? Like, you get to make that decision in your life. There is a word called consequences for your actions, but again, you know, that's how this works, right? Now, don't get me wrong, if you're already fully developed through, yes, you do have to take a surgery to reverse it. But again, that's possible. If you just look at the medical science, it's really not that hard to understand. This is not such a big deal. I don't know why this is being put as a big deal, but it's not a big deal. It's never been a big deal. This is talking about children, though. It seems like you have only a few years to... Well, you don't... Here's the thing is, you have until you're an adult, or until it's, like, fully finished. Seems like you have only a few years to decide. Well, here's the problem. You go through fucking therapy, man. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but, like, again, you go through therapy. That is, like, step number 1. You have to go through therapy. You have to figure out if this is possible. That is crazy? Yeah, no, it isn't. Do you not know how medically professional therapists are? Have you been to a therapist? Do you not know the professionality of therapists? Here's the problem. A therapist will not do you wrong. There is so much shit that they have to go through, so much mental capabilities you have to do. So many fucking things you have to go through in order. I was yanking your chain. Oh my god. Okay, I was about to say, I'm like, yeah, you have therapy. That's the thing is. And for anybody that says, oh yeah, therapy, it doesn't work, then that person's just wrong. There's many therapists in the world, many medical professionals. There's a safety net every fucking way of the thing. It's fine if they don't know or are having a problem understanding. It's not a big deal, color. Well, it is a big deal because, you know, education on this is important. You know, people educated me, you know, like, you know, I got, you know, eventually people had to educate people on, like, gay people, then just become a thing. People had to educate people on other races, you know. I mean, I fucking am with, like, you know, I'm exposed, I was, like, you know, seeing Hispanic people every day and seeing people just talk Spanish casually in a state that I live. And you know what? I got used to it because it wasn't a big deal, you know. It's the same shit of, like, this is a medical procedure, so yes, you need to let people know the health choices in between this. Once again, Asmongold does not fucking do his research. Once again, Asmongold has failed. Again. Oy vey. Yeah, I'm just so tired of his shit, man. So tired of his bullshit. You know, I don't know, man. He's so, like... It's just so annoying, man. He's always been anti, like... He's a WoW player. That's the problem. Well then, the argument that it doesn't cause permanent damage is false. You do have limited time window. You have a lot of risks and several safety nets to ensure minimal risk or bad outcomes. Yes, so yes, you're right. You're right, it can be permanent. But again, the amount of process that you have to go through is plenty. Don't you mean Asmon garbage? You're right, Asmon trash pile, you know. So you're right, there is a risk to it. But again, is that really such a big fucking deal by that point? You know, is that such a large deal if there's so many fucking processes that they go through? Here's the problem. If you go through the therapy of it, and you go through... Well, that was the point I was making. But here's the problem. If you go through the therapy of it, if you go through, like, if your medical professional or the doctor is like, okay, you're ready, you know, and then you have all of the social issues handled with your family as well, then it will be confirmed. That's not easy to go through. That is the problem. If you've been to therapy before, you know how that is. This kid, like, here's the problem is, who the fuck knows how long that will take? That is the problem. They don't just say, oh yes, I'm female, and that's it, right? They could go through years of therapy. Years of therapy. that does not mean that they could get it, like, at 14. You know, is it possible they could get it at 14? Probably. But again, like, therapy is therapy. They have to go through that, you know? So yes, you know, getting fucking puberty blockers is fine. As long as the fucking, like, as long as, you know, it is, like, puberty blockers and HRT. Does this paper have age brackets of patients? Well, let's see. Let's look it up. Ages of patients when they typically start. Oh, the ages when they start? Let's see. Hold on. The length of the transitional period can widely depending on the context, but in general, it can last from a few months to several years. Okay, so it can actually be quite fast. Oof. Could take several years, though. For example, in the context of permamenopause, the phase typically lasts, Jesus Christ, 4 to 8 years. Oh my god. That does take a long time. Okay, so it does take 4 to 8 years, is what your time bracket is. But let's see, age bracket, the ages of patients when they typically start. Let's see. What is the average age for when trans people start? I don't think anybody has like a paper on that. Transitioning. Let's see. Just do puberty blockers. They just file it based on medication. Okay, hold on. You're right. Well, no, hold on. Wait. But that's the problem. They started after therapy. So it doesn't matter. That's the thing. That doesn't matter when they start then. They started after the therapy then. No. Yeah, that doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter when they start their transition. As long as, like I said, as long as they go through the therapy, then yes, you know. That is the problem. You're kind of missing the point. They need to go, like, that's the problem, is they go through the therapy first. You know. I thought it starts when they start puberty. It can start when they start puberty, but again, you need a therapist to approve you first. I'm gonna keep going back and forth over and over again until you get this. Like, they need a therapist first before they do that. They have to have a therapist before they transition. That is the important thing here. I'm gonna keep going back and forth. I will explain it as many times as I need to. And why did you make the still taking it at 14 argument? What are you talking about? When did I say that? I said if you're taking it at 14, sure. Again, if you're able to go through that fast through therapy, which no one ever speed runs therapy like that, but if you end up somehow getting to that assessment by 14, and you know, the therapist is saying you're good, which again, these are teenagers, by the way. Like, here's the problem. So, teenagers are very hard to go through therapy, right? Like, they're probably one of the more stubborn ones when it comes to therapy. The likelihood that it will happen when they're a teenager means they gotta be a very fucking mature teenager in order for them to even get through this therapy to be able to transition. Like, that's just what it is, you know? It could take years. That's the problem, man. Like, here's the thing is, yeah, sure. If you're a mature enough, like, if you're a really mature child, sure, for sure, man. Like, if you are very mature, where a therapist is like, dang it, now I'm envisioning someone speedrunning through therapy. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, so why would you give them puberty blockers right after therapy if they haven't started puberty yet when it recommends not to? Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't say that. That's what I'm saying, is they have to go through therapy. And that's what I'm saying. If you get through fucking therapy first, like, it doesn't really matter the age, now does it? That's the thing is, if somehow, here's the thing is, people are taking the circumstance of being like, oh, well, you know, it's like, well, the puberty is like 8 to like 13 when kids start puberty. But here's the problem with that. What fucking 8-year-old is like so mature that they are actually able to get through all of that therapy to be able to get puberty blockers? Honestly. What therapist would give them that shit? Okay, so why would you give them puberty? Yeah. But here's the problem, though. Puberty starts puberty starts, like, at the age of, like, 12, I think, right? 12, 11? 11 to 13 is what it said. And again, here's the problem. What child is gonna get through therapy, like, that quickly? You have to be a very fucking mature child to get through that shit. That is the thing. Because if the kid just says, oh, I want to transition, and that's it, like, they're not gonna let them do it. I don't think people realize how powerful therapy is. That is the problem, man. Like, people do not recognize the power of therapy. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't believe in therapy. Then you're not then you clearly are not somebody that is trans by that point. You're not a handicapped person or anything like that, you know? By that point, you're like a cis white male or a cis white female. Downright, it is just how it goes. That is the process. Get through therapy, learn about the maturity of it, get through the science. You also have to, like, study the science of this shit, too. Like, here's the thing is, be able to understand the treatment and agree to have it. This is called informed consent. You also have to, then let's check the average age of the patient who start puberty blockers and cross-reference that with the age that puberty starts. Okay, hold on. All right. Yeah, but that's the problem is puberty blockers can be used for, what do you call it? Can be used for more than just transitioning. Because puberty blockers are also used for, like, cancer and shit. So, you know, blockers are used. Okay, puberty blockers and what you should know. Let's see. Puberty blockers are typically used when children begin puberty, which, okay, yeah, but this is not the help here. This treatment is most effective when initiated in early stages of puberty, but that's not the average age. Can you give me an average? That's not really helping me, though. Puberty blockers are typically used when children begin puberty. Yeah, but that's the problem. You have to go through it first. Puberty inhibitors or hormone blockers, medicine used to postpone puberty in children. That is weird, though. Interesting data. Yeah, but this is the problem, though. That's when they can start. That's like the earliest they can start, though. That's why I'm looking at the Wikipedia. Because it says puberty blockers are typically used when children begin puberty. Well, that's the problem, though. It says it's most effective when used at the early age of puberty, but that doesn't help. Because that means, like, yes, they could use it at, like, that. This is the one thing I don't understand, though, because I'm like, you have to go through therapy first. Despite their beliefs, there are some regarding short-term use of puberty blockers. There's short-term puberty? There's short-term puberty blockers? What the fuck? Oh, shit, short-term puberty blockers also exist, apparently. Since puberty is critical, period, for bone development, delaying it may temporarily reduce bone mineral density, which could be monitored through regular bone density scans. That doesn't really help me, though. To protect against lower bone density, doctors recommend exercise, calcium, and vitamin D. No shit. Go down? Where? Here? Of puberty has been falling for decades. It's now around 10.5 years old for girls and 11.5 for boys. Jeez, that's so early. COVID-19 pandemic, timeline even more. Yeah, but here's the problem is what fucking 11-year-old is like that right now. I'm just like trying to figure out where the fuck it can be used, right? GovSite might have the data. This one? Let me see. I just don't want to pull up penises. Let me see. Participants had at least 2 transgender-related encounters, with the first occurring between ages 10 to 17, and at least one encounter after the participant's 14th birthday. The earliest clinician would start GAT based on... So nobody's done it after before 14. Hold on, let me see. The sample of 458 adolescents with 71% assigned at female birth, 68% enlisted insurance sponsor, younger patients, ages 10 to 13 were more likely to start GnRHA therapy than older. Interesting. 68%, huh? Wait, but 71% female at birth and 68% enlisted. Okay, younger patients, 10 to 13, were more likely to start GnRHA therapy than older age 14 to 17. 58% versus 14% of patients were more likely. Okay, so 21.5% stopped therapy within a year. Assigned males at birth were more likely to receive GnRHA than assigned females. So more males going to females than females going to males. That is fair. There's no significant association between blah blah whatever. So this is kind of the thing, man. The problem is, what fucking 10-year-old, like, gets through therapy that fast? This is kind of where my problem comes in. What fucking 10-year-old goes through therapy and, like, what 10-year-old goes through therapy and is just like, oh yeah, well, like, what therapist allows, so the minimum age seems to be 10. Yeah, that's the lowest, though. But, like, the 14 seems to be the one. What fucking 10-year-old goes through therapy that fast? That's the problem, though. Interesting. I don't know. That's weird. Patients ages 10 to 13 are more likely to start... But this says start GnRHA therapy. So this is only starting it. This means you only go through... Well, these are documented cases. Yeah, but here's the problem, though. This is saying start the therapy. This does not mean that they're actually starting, like, to go through changing genders yet. So the youngest is, like, 10, right? 10 to 13 start their actual therapy part of it. Hold on, patients were likely to discontinue okay, yeah. But this is the therapy part. No shit. Like, but that's the problem, though. This doesn't really prove anything. GnRHA did not imply the assured subsequent use of GAT. So yeah, there we go. So I mean, you know, for clinicians, the take-home point is that the prescription of oh no, it's a prescription. What the fuck? GnRHA did not imply the assured subsequent uses of GAT. The fuck is GAT? Findings of the clinicians without concern influencing the future use of GAT. Fuck is GAT? Fuck is GAT? What the fuck is GAT? Gender affirming therapy. Okay. So yeah, So yeah, you have to go through gender-affirming therapy to be able to get that shit then. Yeah. So yeah, that's the answer. So you just... There you go. You have to go through gender-affirming therapy before you transition. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say, man. It's a literal therapist. If you don't trust therapists, then that's your problem, you know? That's your problem. It's literally a therapist that has to choose. That is it. Like, it's so annoying because I'm like... I don't know, man. Like, by this point, no 10-year-old is gonna be able to get approved for that shit. I don't know how the fuck they're gonna get approved for that shit, but if they do, they do, I guess. You know? At that point, who the fuck cares? You know? If they're a really mature 10-year-old, fuck it, man. I don't know what fucking 10-year-old's getting approved for that shit, but fuck it, man. Like, honestly, if it happens, it happens. I don't see the issue with that at all. I don't know, man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. They go through therapy, and so they are getting it at 10 if GnHR therapy. Yeah, but this is the problem, though. They have to go through gender-affirming therapy first. They have to go through actual psychological therapy. Like, this is the problem. They have to go through psychological, medical, and social problems. They have to go through actual therapy to figure out if they're actually, able to be approved for it. It doesn't matter. You have to get approved for it. So again, what 10-year-old is getting approved for this shit? That is the problem. I don't see the issue. This is the problem. There is no problem here. Also, apparently, it's very high that the younger audience... Apparently, they had a group 10 to 13-year-olds approve status with the study. Apparently... Must have been a fucking pretty fucking mature 10 to 13-year-old. Doesn't matter. That's the problem is, you have to go through a fucking therapist first. You have to go through a therapist. Like, you're not understanding this. You have to go through a therapist. Which means this person, these therapists, had to literally approve this shit. They had to go through all of the process, through everything that you have to as a therapist, to figure out even if a fucking 10-year-old can even do that shit. And if they can, that's a pretty fucking smart 10-year-old. That's the problem, man. I don't think you're understanding this. If you're mature enough to go through the therapy, then you are mature enough to go through HRT or GNRHA therapy. If you are mature enough to go through a fuckload of therapy and have a therapist approve you and a medical professional approve you and your parent, because you still need your parent to approve this shit, you know, if you're able to go through all three of those stages, then I don't see the big deal. There's consent on all parties. There is everybody else. Like, here's the thing is, man, like, a therapist has to approve this shit. You have to go through the therapist, you have to go through the medical professional, and you have to go through the parents. If you get through all three of those, which is very unlikely you're going to get through the parents, but if you do, like I said, it will happen. Getting through the therapist is probably the hardest shit, man. If you've been to therapy, you understand. It is not that fucking easy. They have to go through a lot of things to be able to figure that out. You know, they have to go through a lot of fucking process just to be able to get approved for that shit. You better be a pretty fucking mature 10-year-old to be able to do that shit. And that's the thing is, that's what happened. And there's smart kids in the world, you know. I don't, you know, I believe it. That's the thing is, I mean, dude, there's some smart fucking children in the world. And, you know, if they're that fucking smart, then, you know, they, like, on top of it, too, you know, like, if they're smart enough to know, like, all of the medical reasons, like, here's the thing, you have to, like, understand everything about it as well. So not only that, you don't just have to go through, like, therapy, you also have to, like, go through, like, the fact that it's like, oh, do you actually understand the entire process? You get a fucking test, dude. You get tested on this shit to be like, okay, I understand what it actually is. And that's where the other problem is. The doctor's not going to let you do it the doctor's not, like, here's the problem. The therapist, okay, let's say you get through it with the therapist, but now let's say you don't understand all the medical process. Well, guess what? You don't get it. You're not approved. That means a 10-year-old would have to understand, not only have to, one, go through therapy, but two, also, like, have the medical professional, like, also tell the medical professional everything that, like, each process through the step that they have to go through. That's a smart fucking 10-year-old, man. If we are saying that a child like that can't make their own decisions by that point, fuck it, man. I don't know, it doesn't sit right with me. 3/4 of the group aren't even in their teens. Need more time to think on that. If it would be one thing if the audience was 14 to 17, but here's the problem is, who the fuck cares? It says 58%, right? Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. So the simple sample with 450 adolescents with 71% assigned female at birth and 68% having an enlisted insurance sponsor, younger patients ages 10 to 13 were more likely to start GNAH therapy than older, age 14 to 17. This says 58% versus 14%. So 58% is the 10 to 13, or is that the 14 to 17? Younger patients were more likely to discontinue GNRHA therapy. Yeah. So let's see, assigned with males at birth, blah, 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 29% versus 16%. So, yeah. I mean, again, you gotta have a pretty fucking mature child by this point, you know? Like, this is the thing, man. I agree with you that it should probably be 14 to 17, but again, like, what child is gonna know all of the medical procedure and and then go through all of therapy and be able to get that procedure? As long as those are in place, I think that's fine. That's the thing is, right? Like, as long as there's the therapy, like the actual therapy you have to go through, and you have to know, and you have to have insane fucking knowledge about being able to transition. Like, probably adults can't even do that shit, man. And that's the thing is, the adults have to know if they're transitioning too. They have to know they have to know the entire medical process if they want to transition. There you go, man. Shit. It's like, that's the problem. Like, I don't see where the issue comes in here, right? You have to go through the entire medical process, and the entire therapy process, and the doctor, like, you know, like, the doctor has to test you, and the therapist has to make sure that you are ready for it. I don't know, man. Shoot, if they're willing to go through with that, you know, if everything has been gone through, then there you go. Fuck it, you know? Who the fuck cares by that point, right? It's not that big of a fucking deal. Like, that's the problem, man. There is medical professionals that do this. And here's the thing is, the problem is, people need to entrust in medical professionals. If you don't entrust in medical professionals, well, that's your problem. You know? This is the problem, man. We don't take profession into account with this entire thing. Seriously, take the profession into account. Now, it's like, take their profession into account. They have done this shit for years, man. So why would they not know what they're doing there? You know? They know everything about the human mind. You also have to recognize the parents that exist right now as well. There's a lot of millennial parents, there's a lot of Zoomer parents. And a lot of them, despite not a lot of them doing well, not some of, you know, some of them not doing well, there's clearly some supportive parents. There's clearly parents that are okay, like, that are, you know, going through the whole session with them and being like, okay, yep, you know, it's like, that's what they said they wanted, so, you know, I did everything I had to, you know, to be able to go through with all this. And the medical professional has to, like, test, and the medical professional is testing them, so they're already a smart kid, you know. Like, by that point, changing your gender? Fuck it, dude. If they're a kid that's so fucking smart that they know the entire goddamn medical process of when you go through, like, what you go through to get to the, like, from beginning to end, and they go through therapy, like, they go through the actual therapy of, like, people, of, like, the therapist talking to them, and therapists, like, you know, breaking down everything to make sure that this is the decision that they want, which, again, could take a while. It's like, then sure, why not? You know, it's not the fact of they're a minor. It's the fact of, are they mature enough? That is where it is, you know? If they are mature enough, then fuck it, you know? They've got to be very mature, but if they're mature enough, then fuck it. They can go through, they can have G and RHA, you know? Like, you know, that's just it, right? Like, this is the thing, man. And here's the thing, you know, if you are smart enough to go through this, then sure, fine, you know, is what it is. That is my take, you know. If you are smart enough to go through all this shit, then, you know, like, if you're smart enough to know everything about it, then why shouldn't you? That is the thing. If you know every bit of the process, and you know, like, and you go through all, like, and you are mentally ready, which, again, very hard to get through. Very hard to understand with therapy, right? Like, you know, very hard to get through all that therapy, but, you know, maybe it's just challenging for me, I don't know. But if you're mentally ready for it, and you're smart enough to know everything about it, then why not? You've done your research. You've taken time to learn everything about it. You've done everything you have to. You put time, effort, and efficiency into your work. And isn't that all that matters? You know, you put out all this time to make sure that you get approved for it. You want to be a transphobic asshole about it? Go for it, you know? If you want to be an asshole about, like, you know, about someone that is most likely smarter than you, somebody that is more mentally prepared than you, and back was getting food. Oh shit. Well, okay, then I'm gonna have to say what I have to say then. I was gonna say what I was gonna say. So here's the thing is, so I don't know where we last left off, but here's the thing is, you get tested by all the medical professionals, Like, you get tested by the medical professionals, and you have to know the entire process. And then you go through, then you have the therapist, and you gotta go through the whole process of, like, of making sure that you are ready for this, and you are mature enough for this. And here's the thing is, if you somehow do all that shit, put in all that effort and all that time and all that work, you know every single bit, every process about it, every little teeny tiny thing that goes through with it, you know the entire fucking thing, then why not? That is what my take was, right? And that's the thing is, there's very smart kids that exist. I know that there's dumbasses, because we have millennials and zoomers that also have kids. But again, you know, millennials and zoomers are also a lot more, like, open to this kind of thing. A lot of millennials and zoomers are very open to this. I can just imagine Color holding a cigar or bottle while talking about this. I don't know why. I mean, I have catnip in my mouth, so, you know. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is you go through the entire fucking thing with it, then it's really, like, therapy is not that easy to go through. And on top of it, do you know anything about going through the entire process of being trans? Because I don't. Like, I have to know the entire medical process. I have to know everything about the medical process before I can, like, before I'm even allowed to be transitioned. I have to be a pretty smart motherfucker to transition. I have to be pretty damn smart to be able to transition. That's pretty difficult to do. I know I am not that smart, but also I don't feel like I am the other gender either. So, you know, my problem is more the moral argument, but your logical argument is fair when due process is thorough enough. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I get the idea there is also, like, a moral thing, but at the same time, trans people equal smart people? Yeah, that's the thing is, they have to be pretty fucking smart. Like, they have to be pretty fucking smart to go through this entire process. They have to be smart fucking people and go through this entire process. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you go through an entire process of knowing every single teeny tiny thing about, like, medically going, like, the entire process, and on top of it, going through the therapy and a therapist being like, yeah, you are definitely mature enough for this. That's it. That's, like, you know, that you've gone through all of that work, and you're a pretty fucking smart person if you do this. If you are a fucking 10-year-old and you go through that entire fucking process and you are like that fucking smart, then sure, why not? You know, you clearly know what you want by that point, right? You clearly know you want to be the gender that you want to be assigned to. You want to be a different gender. By that point, there is an entire process, an entire thing that you have to go through. It's so fucking annoying, but, like, that's the whole thing. But if you apply this standard, then it must apply to all standards, and thus the irreparable harm doctrine for children would likely be overturned for a due process doctrine? What are you talking about? But if you apply this standard, then it must apply to all standards, and thus irreplaceable harm doctrine for children will likely be overturned for a due process doctrine. What are you talking about? If you're bringing up the standards that we have in today's society, if you want me to bring up the fucking pedophile thing, in short, if you allow it for this, you must allow it for other things? So? Like, what exactly? What exactly else is a very smart person going to do? If we're talking about the pedophile thing, here's the thing is, if a kid does not know the entire process of going through, like, sexual intercourse, then, you know, that's pretty much, they can't choose to do that, right? Any other type of surgery? Sure. Why not? If you know, like, Butt Plants 101, and you want to like, you know, if you want to know, if you know butt plants 101 and want to like, you know, become like have a massive butt, you know, like, and you go through therapy to be like, hey, you know, I want a massive ass, and you go through like the entire fucking process of like therapy, and you know the entire process on how they make your ass bigger, then sure, why the fuck not? You know, there's some surgeries that do make sense where it's like heart surgery, right? If you get heart surgery, you kind of need it. It's like, that's the thing where it's a life or death situation. If you got like an arrow in your chest, yeah, you probably, you know, need surgery. You probably need to get that arrow out of your chest. That's kind of something that's not really, that's like, you know, that's a standard procedure, but again, I don't think anybody needs to go through, doesn't really make any sense, because then it's like, why would you have to go through the entire fucking process of like knowing how an arrow, like how arrows work, you know? Took an arrow to the knee, yeah, right? Like, that's the problem, is if you're gonna apply that to surgery, then it's like, well, then there's also other circumstances there where it's like, okay, but like, what if you need it, right? What if you need to like have like heart surgery, right? Like, nobody's gonna like know that shit, so obviously they're not gonna test you on that shit. You know, you're talking about like very important procedures, but if you're talking about like implants and shit, like Botox and shit, like, you know, Botox and blood implants and breast implants and all that shit, you know, that means that like, you know, if that's the process you have to go through for that shit, sure, why not? We don't have, like, standards for that shit anyway. We don't have standards for making your ass bigger or your tits bigger, or, like, or getting Botox in your face or having surgery in your face, you know? We don't have processes for that shit. If they have to go through an entire therapy thing and know how the process works, shit, man, that person will be way more educated than we think, you know? That'll be a status of smartness by that point, you know? That'll be a status of you being smart. That's pretty good, you know? Pretty fucking good, right? Like, there you go. I don't know. I don't think a smart person murders. If you're, like, here's the thing, is let's go through all the crimes that we're going to go through, right? Like, let's say, like, rather than the process, what are you talking about? What about understanding the consequences rather than... That is what therapy is. You get told the consequences. Smart people do murder? Do they? Do they now? I don't know. Some smart people, I've seen a lot of cases of smart people, and they don't do, a lot of smart people don't do murder, you know. I mean, if they're like a mafia boss, sure, but by that point, what other laws have they violated, you know? Like, by that point, what other laws have they violated? You know, mainly sociopaths? Yeah, but are they smart enough to, like... Here's the problem. Okay. So let's apply a murder, then. Let's apply a murderer goes to a therapist, right? What is the likelihood a therapist is going to approve that shit? What is the likelihood a therapist is going to approve murdering someone? By that point... Like, when is a doctor or a therapist gonna approve murdering somebody? It's not gonna happen. If you're saying we should set the standard for everybody, okay, like, they don't even get past the first minute. Because by that point, if that's the standard of being like, oh, everybody has to go through a therapist, well, guess what? The therapist is gonna be like, yep, I'm not gonna approve you, because what the fuck? Why would they approve murder? Like, that's not gonna happen. If we're talking about fucking murder, yeah, no. Like, they're not gonna approve that shit. I don't know. If that's what you have to go through to be a murderer, like, goddamn, dude, like, fuck it, by that point. If you have to go through therapy to murder people, then, wow, that, like, you know, that's a pretty fucking interesting thing. You know, it doesn't happen. If a murderer went to a let's, like, take this logically, right? If a murderer went to a therapist and was like, hey, I want to murder people, do you think that a therapist is going to approve of that shit? Hell no. You know, I mean, more so so the standard has to be that anything can be approved for any age if they understand the process, consequences, and consent to after passing through several safety nets. Yeah, but that's the problem, though. They have to get approved for it. You have to have a therapist that says you are approved. And then you have to have a doctor that also says, all right, here's a test. Here's a fucking test to be able to, like, transition. Good luck. Here's all the questions I have to answer. Like, you have to answer me now for the entire process through it. Did you pull up your biology book? Because guess what? Here we go. This is your test. This is what you have to go through to make sure that you know the consequences. You know, like, it's, you know, approval is the word here, man. You have to get approved by a doctor and a therapist. Which, you know, is not very easy to do with certain medicines, you know? If a murderer is, like, going through a therapist, you have to get approved. And again, like, a murderer is not gonna get approved by a therapist. Nobody's gonna get approved to murder. It's just insane to me, you know? Mental things like that are very important. Knowledge is very important. Like, if you're saying the standard is that where they have to get approved for that shit, then yeah, they ain't gonna get approved. The problem is it's not just that they have to understand the process, right? The therapist also has to make the decision as well. And if the therapist, which is the person that mainly goes through all of this shit, then, and they don't approve it, then yes, they're not gonna approve it. Well, approval for medical things, but that doesn't have to do with age, but merely anything medical for anyone, it has to be approved by the medical staff and doctors. Yeah, but that's the problem is, I'm like, there's certain things that don't need to be medical, but where's that logic coming from? If I have cancer, I'm not gonna get disapproved for chemotherapy, right? Like, that's the logic you're bringing in. If, like, a toddler has chemotherapy and they get cancer, like, it is, you know, or if a toddler has cancer and, like, so for something that isn't medical related, should that standard still apply? Yeah, sure, why not? Sure, why not? Therapy could solve anything. I know that sounds like a fucking wild take, but therapy solves everything. I am not joking you. It could solve literally everything. If billionaires went to therapy, oh boy, do you think they would they be billionaires? Therefore, the approval threshold is no longer needed? Where did you get that stupid? Where did you get that stupid fucking logic? Not to be mean, but like, if you say there is an approval, you need approval. The therapist is the approval. I mean specifically therapy as the process. Yeah, but that's the problem is that's the process you go through with here. Like, I don't get where you're getting it from. This is the problem. If somebody is saying, hey, I want to be a male or a female, and they're originally the opposite gender, then essentially they got to go through the therapist. Then the therapist says, hey, you know, like, this is all of the shit. Plus, you have to get approved by me, the therapist, the person that can approve you, and I will know when you are ready and when you're not ready. You know? And then you go through the medical process of the doctors that test you on everything and be like, oh yeah, here's all the shit you have to go through. It's like, you know, then there you go. There's the fucking standard. Like, again, that is the process. It is still a choice by the end. It's not a needed medical procedure. Because there's essential medical procedures, then there's needed medical procedures. I mean, you know, it's needed for people, if people want to do that. But again, you get my point. It's not like an essential thing that people have to have. Like, I don't have to, like, it's not essential for me to switch genders, right? That's not an essential thing in my day-to-day life, right? Like, I don't have to essentially be like, oh shit, I'm male, I have to go be trans real fast, I gotta go switch to the other gender. That's just not a thing. That doesn't exist. You know, that's just not it just isn't real. Yeah, I don't know, man. This just isn't a thing, period. Because, yeah, I've been making that argument that if someone understands the process and consequences and provides consent after passing through safety nets, then they should be able to do or get the thing they want through all of that for. Well, that's, again, depending on the scenario of what you're talking about. Sure. Shit, it's 3, I gotta go be trans. Alright, yeah, right? Right? I just don't see where your argument's trying to come from here, because I don't get the idea. Okay, that is the clarification I was looking for. It is an absolute. I did not say it was an absolute. That's the problem, is if that's the process for everything, if that's the because here's the thing is, what is the likelihood? You said it depended on the circumstance? Well, sure, I guess, but also at the same time, like, again, what standard are you talking about? Because this is the problem. The standard you are talking about is different for everything, right? Like, that's the thing is, if you're like, if the standard is like, don't murder someone, like, and you have to, and if like, you know, if a murderer, because a murderer doesn't just choose to go to a therapist to murder people, right? Like, that's the thing is, like, give me an example of what you're, like, give me an example of, like, what the standard would be, and I'll debunk it, right? Give me, like, an example of what you would say that is, like, a thing that exists, right? Like, a thing that just fully exists that is a, like, medical, like, or, I don't know. Give me a thing that exists, and then say, like, okay, then I'll run you through the process of it, right? Give me an example of, like, maybe something essential, right? Maybe, like, food or something. Well, no, even with food, again, if that was the process, then again, like, that would just make people starve, you know? Like, if because the standard, there's not gonna be a standard for that kind of thing, right? The difference is, this has a standard, that does not. Getting people food is not a standard. There's no standard you have to go through for getting food, right? Like, I mean, other than having money, but, like, again, you know, I just need an example, because I'm getting kind of nothing right now out of this. I'm not understanding what you're saying. So under the puberty blocker stuff, the standard enough to satisfy you is that they understand the process, they did the research test, they understand the consequences, know the side effects of the outcomes, treatment, and they have provided consent, parental consent after going through the procedural safety, doctor approval, other things, and that they should be allowed to get puberty blockers at 10. If, again, if they have to get approved for everything. If they go through the entire approval process, go through the therapy and the medical proceedings, like, and they know everything about it, and if they somehow do it at the age of 10, then sure, why not by that point? If they somehow are smart enough for that shit, then sure, by that point, you know. I do not see the issue in that. They have to be a pretty fucking smart 10-year-old to do that shit, man. Okay, that is what I was confirming. Pretty much just making sure I understood what the criteria was. Allow that for you. If they went for fucking everything, sure, why not? They have to go through the entire fucking like I said, it's not an easy process. You have to understand how crazy this process is, bro. You have to understand what the entire goddamn process is. Oy vey. Again, I don't know what fucking 10-year-old is able to get through that shit. But again, you also have to account. How many fucking 10-year-olds do you know are that fucking mature? Seriously, how many 10-year-olds are that mature? That's why I need to, like, ask really fast. So, yeah, exactly my fucking point. Exactly my point. Like, what fucking child is gonna even make it through that entire process? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you know any fucking 10-year-olds that can even get through that entire thing? Like, you have to also recognize the age of the kid. I don't think anyone is ever gonna, like, I think it's pretty fucking rare if that happens. You know? pretty goddamn rare if that occurs. I don't, like I said, I mean, you know, there's a million fucking safety barriers. So, you know, I don't see the issue in that. In this circumstance, I am not incorrect. As at one point it becomes opinion. Now, is the opinion crazy? Sure. But the problem is, like, he is trying to count this opinion as its fact, right? And that's where the problem is. The decision, here's the problem too as well. I should have even just brought this up at the beginning. Here's the thing is, your kid is your kid by the end. If I had a kid, like, that is my decision if I want them to go through that as well. I didn't even think about this entire process, right? Like, it is my kid in the end. If I don't want my kid to transition, you know, at least until they're older, I can also make that decision, right? Here's the thing is, if I would, here's what I would do. Here's the thing is, if my child, let's say if I had a fucking, like, you know, let's use the example, a 10-year-old kid, right? And they want to transition, right? And they go through all of the therapy process. They go through the entire fucking, like, how do you say it? They go through the entire, like, you know, they know everything about the surgeries. They know exactly every little teeny tiny detail about getting approved and everything that involves, like, every point and process and surgery and like, you know, fucking like medical thing and goddamn names of all of the medicines and shit, everything you have to take in order to be able to do that shit. Like, I would tell them to wait till they're 14. I would say, okay, try again when you're 14. Maybe 14, 15. You know, I would say that. Maybe wait until they're 14, 15. I would wait until they're a teenager. That is probably what I would do, but I would go through the entire process one more time to make sure that they are right, that they are okay with doing it, right? That is the thing. I will make sure they go through the entire process multiple times, you know, like, I will make sure they go through the process not just once, but twice. Is that cruel? Probably. But again, like, you know, I would say I would give them time until 14, right? Even at 14 is going to be a little wild, but again, they're a teenager, so, you know, by that point, what's the likelihood they're going to get through much of the therapy in the first place? Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? Badoom ching. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I don't know. It's like they're a goddamn fucking dumbass. Like,
Then what is your opinion on split parent consent where one consents and the other doesn't?
then they don't get approved. That's the thing is, if that's the problem is you already answered the question then. You have to get the parents' consent. That is one of the processes. That's one of the processes to go through, right? Like, you have to have the parent give consent as well, and then the parent be like, okay, yep. Like,
Unanimous consent or merely the one who holds custody?
well then by that point, it's, you know, if you're the one that holds custody, then, sorry. I don't know. I feel like that one would be... I would feel like it's the best caretaker. If the person that has custody... The person that has custody is normally the one that's the best to make that decision, right? You know? Usually that's the most supportive parent. Because here's the thing, is if the parent's not supportive, then they also wouldn't be like, you know... They also wouldn't be like, you know, letting them be transgender. You know?
And for dual custody or disputed custody?
For dual custody or disputed custody, then you need both parents. If both parents, like, have the child, then, you know, if both parents have the child, then you need both parents' consent. There's gonna be a lot of factors that go into this, but again, you know, it's how it goes. Unfortunately, some parents are assholes, you know, and they won't let you go through the transition, but good lord. It depends on the parent, man. Like, if the parent is really, like, going through the entire thing, and they've been there through them, like, through and through, then man, dude, like, that's great, I guess. You know, that is my circumstance.
What about states that do not require parental consent?
The requirement is not a state thing. That is a medical thing. That is a full-blown medical thing. That is like a thing that they have to do. That's a thing they need to do. They don't have a choice.
Which is dependent on state and federal laws.
What do you mean? Is like parental consent, or are you talking about like the medical like
They
field?
vary from state to state.
Yeah, but medical field wise, they all follow the same procedure. I mean, not necessarily, but again, like there's the medical, like usually a lot of times the medical profession is pretty consistent.
I love being a woman and getting my monthly punch in the gut 3, BRB.
Okay.
For example, 15-year-olds can consent independently to medical care without parental consent in, I think, Oregon.
Well, yeah, that I think I should just, that I would say, well, didn't I just say, like, 14-year-olds, like, mine would be, like, 14 if they're ready? They still have to go through the therapy, and they still have to know everything about the medical test, you know? They still have to go through everything.
Well, some have it less.
What, the therapy thing? Or like, what, the test thing? Don't get me wrong, if that's not a standardized thing across, like, all of, like, you know, across all of it.
The age of independent consent.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, okay, you got through the consensual part. You gotta get through the therapy and the fucking, you know, now you gotta know everything medically about it. And by that point, you're 15, so what? You know? By that point, you're a teenager, you're gonna change yourself anyway. There's a lot of things there's a lot of things that teenagers are just very independent on anyway, so. I don't know, man. This guy doesn't do shit in reality. All he does is hurt people. Just ridiculous. It just influence people to hurt people. That's all he does, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. By that point, they're 15, and then, like, you know,
That is just for Oregon. Think California is like 12.
That can't be right. That has to be fucking wrong. No, 18 years old. Let's see. So, on the states, right now, here's all the ages of consent. 16, 16, 18, 16, 18, 17, 16, 18, 16, and then 17, 17, 16. There's a bunch of 16s and 17s.
Minor consent laws.
Minor consent laws? That's not a thing, is it? What is minor consent laws? I've never heard of that before. Minor consent and confidentiality. So, age of majority, emancipation, minor marriage. Ooh, minor marriage. I don't like that one. Abortion, emergency care, family I don't know if any of these are covered, though. Let's see. So it covers age of majority, emancipation, minor marriage, abortion, emergency care, family planning and contraceptives, outpatient mental health care. Ooh, it could be in that one. Pregnancy related care, definitely not that one. Reportable, communicable, or infectious care, that is fair. Sexual assault care. Ooh.
California Family Code 6924.
Oh shit, okay, hold on. Here it is, okay. California Farm Code 6924. Okay. Outpatient mental health care, though. This is mental health. Provides that minor age 12 or older may consent for outpatient mental health treatment or counseling if the minor, in the opinion of the attending person is mature enough to participate intelligently in an outpatient mental health treatment counseling. Okay. So this doesn't include medical procedures. Yeah, this doesn't include medical procedures. Mental health or counseling services, that's it. That's the highest you can go. Where's that one where it's like a 15-year-old though? Hold on. Let's go medical real fast. California provides emancipating minor may consent for medical, dental, or psychiatric care without parental consent, knowledge, or liability. What kind of medical can... That's the problem is, though, this is also, like, very different. Because, like, I don't think they're just allowed to get like freaking implants and shit. That is very weird though. Health Farm 7050. Emancipated minor may consent medical, dental, or psychiatric care. I don't know if I agree with that one. I mean, if it's like an important procedure, but this is interesting. I don't know if I agree with that one. I don't know. Yeah, that is weird. I would say the consent for that, probably no. Yeah. By that point, yeah, I would say put a cap on it. Yeah, no. Well, yeah, but they still gotta go through the therapy and the... Well, that's the problem, though. They had to go through the therapy still and the medical and, like, they gotta know everything about the medical procedure. Wait, no, yeah, you're making me bring back the fucking scenario, though, again, where they have to go through the whole fucking medical procedure. They have to know everything about the procedure and everything. And then they also have to, like, they also, again, have to go through therapy and shit. It's just minors can't be approved for this shit unless they go through the entire process. So this law doesn't even... this law doesn't even matter because it's just like... This law doesn't matter because they would still have to go through the entire process anyway. I'd say skipping the parents is kind of strange, but also at the same time... I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that is strange. But, again... It is what it is by that point, you know. Having a trans 12-year-old is strange, but... Maybe strange, but again, I don't think... Like I said, if you go through the whole fucking therapy process and you know all the medical shit, fucking sure, whatever, by that point. It has to be a smart kid. I don't think y'all recognize, it has to be a pretty fucking smart kid to do this. Like, cause here's the thing is, what is the likelihood that a kid that is that smart is going to do anything that's like lower end? Like, because I don't think it will ruin their life, right? Like, what is the likelihood they're not going to do something like really intelligent, right? What's the likelihood they're not going to be like, you know, the fucking scientist? Ironically. Some scientist or some, like, important person in the world. I don't know. Like, what's the likelihood they're not gonna have, like, some crazy, like, good job, like, by that point, right? Because if they're that intelligent, then, I mean, shit, you know, I feel like...
6,924 is for mental health treatment but doesn't include stuff for psychotropic drugs IIRC. That does include other things.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though. Like, it's, you know, it's only for mental... You know, and then it doesn't include any of the other... It doesn't really include anything else. Either way, again, I'm going to say this. You go through the entire process, fuck it. By that point, you know, is what it is. Stupid as hell, but again, I get the point, you know. By this point, like, it's stupid as hell, but again, like, if you somehow have the brain power to be smart enough to, like, to solve a fucking... mental health crisis or mental crisis and a goddamn, like, if you're smart enough to handle a mental crisis and a fucking and like know everything about a surgery, like, you probably know many other things in the world. I don't know. Again, we're talking about a child that probably has an IQ than, like, higher IQ than most of us. Let's be honest here. This is probably a child that is way smarter than any of us. Because, like, let's bring this, like, to the table, right? What is the likelihood that a child that passes that is not, like, smarter than us? What is the likelihood they know everything about the medical process and, like, from, like, page to page, you know, without, like, you know, what's the likelihood they know everything from page to page without, like, you know, like, by also being as dumb as us? I'm sorry to say it, but we're not as smart as probably a child of that caliber. You know, it's a very interesting thing, but again, just very mature children, like, you know, do exist in the world. And that is, you know, that is the thing. Do I think that, like I said, there's a lot of things I do not care for? There's a lot of real issues out in the real world that could be a real problem. But I don't know. Transitioning is not really something that should be that big of a deal. Yeah, transitioning should just never be that big of a fucking deal.
bit.c.h. What's that spell? Asmongold.
Damn. I don't know. You go through the entire process of it, and you go through everything, and it just, you know, is what it is. By that point, it is what it is, you know. Do I think... Here's the thing is, just because it exists doesn't mean you have to like it either, right? Like, just because it exists doesn't mean you have to like it. You know.
I did shift your mind a bit though. Even if you fall back on the process you did instinctively took a double take at those codes, which is good. Shows cognitive maturity.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the problem is, like, I'm also not, like, a dumbass like this fuck. Here's the problem. I am not a dumbass like this fucker right here, right? Because this guy, here's what he does. He doesn't read. He doesn't fucking read. This is the problem. Like, every time, he doesn't fucking read. Like, the article that he pulled, I immediately fucking looked at the next sentence. And it was just like, he doesn't fucking pay attention to, like, he did not read what was actually going on there. And that's the problem. I just have more of a problem with him, too, you know? I have a problem with him as a person. Because, like, he's always been this way, and he just gets worse over time. And it's just downright, his influence is too high. That is the problem. He has too much influence for how dangerous he is. He's a dangerous person, and he does not deserve his fame. The fact that Nyara, a person with 15,000 subscribers on YouTube, and 7,000 on Twitch, got the attention of someone with 2.3 million subscribers?
Is this stream pro or anti-Asmongold?
Well, so far we went through the entire fucking process, went through all the research papers, everything that came to everything that he was talking about, and, like, we have came to the conclusion, man, he's an idiot. We've gone through every fucking thing that we could, and he has been confirmed to not be the smartest person.
Only because I asked the right questions.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the problem. We went through everything, every goddamn thing that we had, man. And it's just like, we went through page to page to page to page to fucking figure out if consent of HRT was a thing for, like, kids, and puberty blockers were even a thing for kids, and then the answer is yes. But again, the only way they go through that entire process is they have to, one, go through intense therapy, which is, like, literal, like, mental therapy, which means a therapist has to approve them, their parents have to approve them, and then on top of it, the medical professional has to test them to make sure they know the entire process before they transition. That is the entire thing we went through. It is insanity to me. And, like, by that point, like, it is kind of crazy to me that, like, he did not bring up any of those in his goddamn, statement at all. I don't know. I've done more research that I swear probably both of them have done combined. Like, by this point, if a fucking child somehow is like Einstein, then I get, you know, by that point, like, I think you're a little bit more concerned than them being transgender by that point, you know? It is absolutely insane the process you have to go through just to do it. From what I understand, that is what I got. That is everything we looked at, and that is everything that has come with it. He has been dumb, dude. He is just downright somebody that did not do his own research, which is just downright stupid. And here's the thing is, this quote-unquote source he pulled, the source he pulled was somebody, like, The source he pulled, I looked at the sentence 2 sentences later, and it completely debunked a bunch of shit that he was saying. Also, just trying to make a bit of prediction here, since I know this guy likes to take things out of context. He's going to try to find any way to twist this or spin this in his way as much as possible. Here is the definition of it. Like, it's straight up, like, I highlighted the parts that actually matter the most when it comes to this kind of transition, or when it comes to this kind of thing. And I completely highlighted the red part of what he will most likely try to focus on, but obviously does not matter because of the part literally before it. He pulled this person out of context twice. You know, he pulled Nyara out of context twice. Now, sorry, 3 times now. He pulled Nyara out of context 3 times, accused them of being a pedophile, and then on top of it, doesn't even understand the goddamn whole thing when it comes to, like, transgender bullshit. Ay. They don't even I didn't understand much, but it did not take that, I still put in the time and effort to figure it out, man. And he needs to do the same. That's the problem. His influence is too fucking high if he doesn't do his damn research. Nyara got taken out of context from Asmongold, and then Asmongold used that to try to take that...
Asmon garbage P.
Yeah, they took that out of context to then try to point them to be a pedophile, when in reality, the argument that Nyara was making the first time was that they were making this, it was a super long stretch and a crazy comparison, but what they were saying is that the same people that talk about age of consent and that hate pedophiles are the same people that talk about, like, intersex people need to be, like, you know, intersex people need to be changed to their biological gender, which is a fucking large stretch. Like, that is a huge stretch. And then now just the main argument is, are kids able to get approved for HRT? The answer was yes, they can be. But the only way for them to get approved for, not even HRT, to get approved for puberty blockers, which is essentially what Asmongold is trying to, like, put as, like, a major thing. In order to get approved for puberty blockers, you either, 1, have to have goddamn cancer, or 2, you have to, like, or 2, you have to go through the entire fucking process through a therapist of approving you to be ready to transition to being the opposite gender. On top of it, you have to have a medical professional, a doctor, test you on making sure that you know the entire process before you transition. You have to be extremely knowledgeable about this shit. Like, and that's the thing is, like, it's one thing that Asmongold definitely did not do the research for. If he actually understood what being transgender was, he wouldn't have even gone through with this entire thing. That's the problem. And you know what's the worst thing about it? Even when he's proven wrong, he's still gonna keep doing the bullshit that he does. It's just pissing me off by this point that this fucker, like, thinks this fucker just gets away with his influence. I am anti-oppression. How about that? I am anti-oppression. I do not like racist. I do not like sexist. I do not like homophobes. That is my thing, you know?
What about oppression of those with minority of harmless opinions or outspoken opinions?
Hold on. What about oppression of those with minority of harmless opinions or outspoken opinions? If you're an oppressor...
Do you think you could estimate it?
Here's the thing is, if you are an oppressor, you are a Confederate to me. I do not like oppressors, period. I do not care. If you are an oppressor, nah, fuck you. Like, period. If you oppress people, no. If you're bringing up, like, actual legal things, then yeah, of course, there's gonna be a circumstance with certain things. Like, obviously, I have a certain circumstance with some things. Like, obviously with pedophiles and people that are rapists and people that sexually assault people, yeah, 1000%, I do not like those people. Like, that is obvious, you know? That is not oppression. That is just judging a person by how they act, right? It's like, and
For me IDC like do what you want, be who you want, just don't make it your whole personality or force it on me.
if you don't hurt anyone, then you are fine. That is
Interesting.
That is the thing, is if you don't hurt anyone, you are okay. That is my
What
stance.
is oppression?
Oppression? Here, let me, you know what? I don't even have to do anything. Here, let me just tell you the definition. Let me bring up the definition of oppression. I love bringing this up. Hold on. Oppression is an unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power over individuals or groups, often resulting in their subjugation and suffering. It can manifest in various forms, including political, social, or economic injustices. Yeah. It is basically saying, fuck you, nobody gets rights.
What makes an exercise of authority unjust?
How about being racist? That's one. How about being a dick? Being a dick and fucking making sure people don't get the same equal rights that you do. Seems pretty fucking oppressive to me. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression. That is the main three, the Declaration of Independence.
This all sounds like mental illness. Yeah, this all sounds like mental illness to me, man. Let's see what desires are. FFS is a threesome where all humans involved identify as women. If you're gonna have, like, an FFF thing where you include all individuals who identify as women, how are lesbians who are lesbian by definition going to find an FFF that doesn't involve men, is my question. FFM is a threesome between two humans who identify as female and one who identifies as male. If you have an FFM threesome where the two identifying as female people are male and the one identifying as male is a female, is that just like a regular heterosexual orgy?
So that clip of Kirsche just says it all. A lot of people out in society do not understand a lot about this stuff. A lot of people are not really ready for a lot of conversations, and we're not ready for a lot of the modern technology in the world. I honestly have the same feeling about AI. The funniest thing is, like, if people cannot even understand the simple aspect that something as simple as a bisexual relationship, just like, FMF or MFM, it is still, again, like, that is not straight, that is considered bisexual. That is considered a bisexual sex. whether you like it or not. But this is kind of where humanity tends to always have a lot of problems. Simply because humanity cannot understand something, they freak out and instead just go immediately against it because, looking into something is hard. Doing your research is hard. Trying to find a million different, cited sources and research papers on something that is in the medical field is very difficult to understand. Anything in general is hard to understand. This is why I do not think something like AI is really ready for this current world. Because if we cannot understand the simple thing of human-to-human interaction, it is going to be very hard for us to understand things like, one, the technology we're on right now. We have no idea how it's built, we don't know the components of it, and we know nothing about what we're using. Technology is just a thing that human beings are not very good with, but they use them because, convenience or fun or, kills boredom, right? But because of that, we have people in humanity that are willing to spread hate just for goddamn dollar signs. To be honest, I could definitely expect this out of a rich, spineless asshole that, definitely has to watch his back. And Nyara, I am a little disappointed in you. You were the victim of this situation, the pure victim of the situation. But because you attacked a person that was not in the conversation at all, mind you, now the problem is Kirsche is going to be the one people are in defense for because you weren't patient enough to wait for people to talk about this. And I know this is crazy because this is like a wild situation, but again, now you gotta actually get somebody that is a lot more intelligent to cover this and actually has the time to cover this. It's gonna be very difficult for this entire thing to go through. Like, you're gonna have to get some pretty intelligent people to actually break this entire thing down, because this whole entire, even the topic itself is so fucking complicated. It's a very complicated topic. So it's like, the problem is now, like, you have an even longer process that you're gonna have to wait for people to come into your defense for this. Because the problem is, you are not entirely innocent now. You did something that makes you not just the victim anymore. You are now an attacker of another person that wasn't involved in the conversation. You get what I'm saying? So now, I am sorry, but, like, I don't... Your hate from Asmongold's fanbase is not deserved. But your hate from Kirsche's fanbase, or people in defense of Kirsche, is a 1000% valid. That was very dumb of you to do, and you know that. In the end, this is just YouTuber drama. It's very dumb, because obviously some of them, both sides are like very politically motivated in some way, shape, or form. But either way, this shows a bigger issue. People are getting dumber. Like, people are just getting dumber. At least in the United States, they are. And people are not looking at both sides of the internet, right? There are people from Asmongold's fanbase that have been commenting on my stuff that do actually have a good amount of patience, right? And they are willing to hear out what other people are saying first, right? And that is beautiful, right? That is what a debate is. Essentially meaning that, like, people just need to look at two sides of a coin. I can even bring an example of this. You remember that meeting between like our vice president and the Ukraine leader? You know, the Ukraine leader. Essentially with that, people probably have seen that clip like a million times of like JD Vance like being like, you know, oh well, you're what I call it, you're the one that's is the problem, right? Oh well, you need to do XYZ, right? Like, people have only seen that clip of them being like, oh, you're gonna start World War II, or you're gonna start World War III. Sorry, World War II, World War III. Oh, you're gonna start World War III. You're gonna start World War III. When in reality, I decided to not just check one side of the argument, because there was that, yes, but then on top of it, Ukraine was drafting people that were disabled and people that were elderly into the military, which unfortunately they can't do much. And I understand desperate times come for desperate measures, but because of that, the whole problem with this is that is probably not the best circumstance when it comes to war, right? There's all's love and fair in war, right? But I get that it shows more of the desperation of the country than anything, but it also just shows the reason why some people were still arguing against the other side, because, you know, it's not very good of an idea to send people out that probably won't even make it through the actual, you know, hard process that you go through when being a soldier. So, you know, and there you go. Now, for anyone wondering why I brought that up in the first place, this is where I am talking about conclusive evidence. A lot of people just look at one side or the other. They don't ever try to peek over... Goddamn, they don't ever try to peek over the fence when it comes to actually figuring out what is on the other side of the fence when it comes to this. This is the problem that Asmongold himself has. This is the influence he is trying to give. But Nyara is also doing the same thing. You have to look at both sides of the spectrum and understand where people are coming from. When you start doing that and you start actually understanding all of the circumstances that these people are coming through with, then you can have a real debate in the real world, and eventually, even if you guys don't come to the same, like, opinion, you guys come to the same conclusion. There is factual evidence that is now straight in front of you. And I know factual evidence is really hard to find, but there is now factual evidence that is straight up in front of your face now, that now both of y'all are looking at, and now y'all at least have the defense for your own side, and just in case another person comes along, talks about the argument, and essentially now what you can do is you have the insane knowledge of what that is, and essentially you can talk about it with that person, and if that person has something else to provide, you now have more information that you know about that topic. Essentially what we need to do on the internet is find out, like, where the respect line is, right? Because people are so caught up on their own side, trying to fight for their own side, that they're not looking where the respect was in the first place, right? Both sides need to figure out to have a conclusive argument with each other, and, you know, actually, even if they have the exact opposite opinions of you, you need to do it based off of the judgment of character, and not the judgment of, like, and not just the judgment of, like, oh, well, you're a side of the, you're a Republican, so you suck. Oh, you're a Democrat, so you suck. No. Just no. Every human being is extremely unique. Meaning that everyone has their own opinions. We need to start having conversations with each other, and not only just conversations with each other, we need to start remembering who the professionals of these circumstances are. Because the problem is, neither of us are professionals in any of this. None of us are professionals in any of this. We don't know this shit. We are just people talking to each other and, like, barking at each other, right? We need to stop using our own words and our own opinions as fact. We need to start bringing together the people that are the scientists, or like maybe some historian even. We need to start bringing people that are actually qualified in the field that we talk about, and use their words to talk for us, because they know more about a certain situation than we do. Journalists don't know shit. Politicians don't know shit. They do not understand how this whole process goes. They do not understand this shit. We need to start actually talking to the person about the profession that they are under, right? This is not being like, oh yeah, go talk to Nyara because Nyara's trans. Sure, Nyara can understand the whole thing about being trans. They can understand, like, what it feels like just being trans. But then when you start getting to the actual medical side of it, and, like, that is when the doctor is the person that knows what they're talking about. That is when a doctor comes in and is like, okay, or the scientists come in, scientists and doctors, medical field professionals, period, come in and go, this is the facts when it comes to like, what we're talking about, right? That is the thing. It's like that in anything. If we were talking about Judaism, guess what? We are going to have to talk to somebody that has known the history of what being Jewish is, right? We talk to the historian about it. And then if we want to know the story about it, then we talk to a Jewish person about it, right? This is the thing. This is how people come to conclusions. This is how people still respect each other in the end. And I am so tired of people not respecting each other. I do not give a damn how hard it is to understand another side. You need to let the other side come up with their opinions. And you need to have them bring up the factual evidence of that backs up those opinions. Because here's the thing is, the best way as humanity that we can adapt is understand all of the facts, not the opinions of each other, the facts. We need to take factual evidence and use that to progress humanity. And when we come to opinion, we need to understand where that opinion comes from. And if that opinion is respectable enough or changes, that is the opinion we have to understand and respect. If the facts back up the opinion, then that is fine. Journalists cannot give you facts. I'm going to say this. Journalists cannot give you facts. They are journalists by the end. They have to do their job. They have to pump out as much as they can because they need to pay their rent. It's up to the people to do this, right? It's up to the people to provide the circumstance that they want factual evidence. The content creators are going to do the same fucking shit unless people themselves, the consumer, the viewer, understand where this comes from. They need to understand where their audience is coming from. Because once you start doing that, you will be okay. You will no longer be in this trash pile that is the internet debating itself back and forth, screaming at each other for political jargon over and over again, like trying to make your thing like a solid amount of evidence when in reality it's all based on opinion. You need to stop taking people's opinion as fact. I'm going to start saying that. Stop taking people's opinion as fact because that is opinion. Stop doing that shit. It's getting tiring by this point. Asmongold does it. Rich assholes do it. Like, I'm so anytime that I hear these people like talk, I just move on because they never have anything else to actually say. You know, it's like they're not educated. Which is ironic because, you know, rich people are the people that are supposed to be the ones that go through, like, pristine college, right? Oy vey. These people are extremely uneducated, and I am straight up, like, going to be this guy that, like, is going to start calling everyone out for that shit. I do not care. Like, you the person watching this, I understand that, like, you clearly have the patience of somebody that, like, is willing to listen to a whole side of a conversation, but for the love of God, just take this clip right here and just, like, show people that, you know, this is important. We need to start respecting each other. We need to start actually understanding what's opinion and what's fact. Because, you know, by that point, when it's an opinion, we can just move on. When it's a fact, we can that's when we actually need to start actually absorbing information. Because, good lord, man, this is so stupid. So dumb. Because, I don't know, man. The fact that we're even arguing about this is just dumb. You know. I want to bring this, like, evidence to the table. You know, because this is like a pure example of how stupid humanity is getting. If we're arguing about this, like, come on, man. Jesus Christ, bro. Like, is this really how you're gonna spend your free time? Is this really what you want your job to be? Like, Lord, man, I'm so disappointed in humanity. Oy vey. In other words, read a fucking book.